Obviously, we're talking about joining forces to overthrow Zeus, aren't we? Poseidon's bold statement hung in the air, but I remained silent. He picked up his cup again, a flicker of anticipation in his eyes. Do you truly covet the throne of the king of the gods that much? I asked, finally breaking the silence. Oh no, that's not it, Poseidon said, shaking his head slowly. He raised a hand, and his attendants quickly withdrew, leaving us in privacy. Zeus no longer deserves to reign above us. Consider the debacle with Typhon. But he still won in the end, didn't he? At what cost? Poseidon countered. He was defeated, his tendons severed, and he was left humiliated in a cave. This, even after wielding the scythe. Ah, Poseidon, always full of ambition. When we drew lots to divide the realms, I took the underworld, the realm everyone avoided. Poseidon, however, had long regretted not claiming the heavens. But was he truly planning rebellion now? It's unthinkable for the ruler of the heavens, the king of gods, to suffer such a loss. Hades, Zeus had to beg for your help during Typhon's attack. Do you believe he can withstand the Gigantes without you? I remembered Hermes' desperate plea on Zeus's behalf during that battle. Overthrowing Zeus for a single failure seemed absurd, and frankly, I wasn't interested. This would never have happened if we hadn't divided dominion by drawing lots. Watching Zeus falter against Typhon, despite his power, was deeply disappointing. And so, you wish to involve me in this rebellion? Precisely. I know you're content in your realm. But if you help overthrow Zeus, I promise you a reward beyond your imagining. I have little need for rewards, I replied. There's not much I desire in the first place. Then let me ask you this, Poseidon said, leaning forward. Do you believe we have a chance if you stand with us? Let me rephrase that question. Do you truly believe you could succeed without me? Poseidon laughed, confident. With your support, our chances are more than sufficient. Zeus was powerful, the king of gods, master of lightning, supreme ruler of the heavens. The notion that any coalition could defeat him seemed unlikely, but perhaps not impossible. Still, why should I care? Even so, I said, I oppose this rebellion. Even if I promise anything you desire? Anything but the heavens. No matter what you offer, I am better off as things are now. Poseidon frowned, his ambition thwarted. It's unfortunate that you ended up in the underworld, he said, his tone laced with pity. If I hadn't, you and Zeus would have fought to the death to avoid it. He sighed. I didn't expect this from you, Hades. The doors behind us opened, and in walked Hera, queen of the gods, her cold beauty as striking as ever. Hades, she said icily, I can no longer bear Zeus's atrocities. Hera's arrival explained Poseidon's boldness. No wonder he had broached rebellion. Surely Zeus knows you're here. He disregards me entirely, Hera said. As his wife and the goddess of the hearth, my words mean nothing. Even now, he's indulging himself with another goddess. Her voice dripped with bitterness. He has been with countless others, goddesses, mortals. It doesn't matter as long as they meet his standards of beauty. It burns me like the fires in Hephaestus's forge. Indeed, Poseidon interjected. Zeus's behavior is unbecoming of a king. With your support, Hades, we can set things right. And you think you'd be a better king? I asked. Unlike Zeus, Poseidon declared, I will remain loyal to Amphitrite. A blatant lie, but I said nothing. With Hera, Apollo, and me, we stand a solid chance. Even without you. If you truly believe that, why involve me at all? Hades, you're no coward. After seeing you fight Typhon, I know that much. Help us, and you'll be richly rewarded. And if I refuse? Poseidon's face darkened. Even without you, I will claim the throne of the heavens. I stood, weary of his posturing. Zeus is strong. Even with your alliance, you will fail. I oppose this rebellion. Poseidon sighed deeply as I turned to leave. Damn it, Hades. Fine. But if you change your mind, seek me out, and you won't inform Zeus? Of course not. That would be unwise. Hera watched me leave, her expression unreadable. A few days later, while working in the underworld, I received unexpected news. Lord Hades, a servant called urgently. The goddess Thetis is at the entrance, requesting an audience. Thetis? Poseidon's sister-in-law? Curious, I allowed her in. The sea goddess entered, her face pale with urgency. Hades, Olympus is in chaos. Poseidon, Hera, and Apollo have overthrown Zeus. So they'd acted after all. They ambushed him while he slept, stole his thunderbolt, and subdued him. This was unexpected. Zeus had trusted Hera and Apollo. He never saw it coming. Hades, you must summon the Cinemanes to save him. But the Cinemanes were vital for guarding Tartarus. I cannot. Tartarus is unstable, and Cronus is stirring. Thetis looked stricken. Do not worry, I said, standing. I will deal with this myself. Grasping my bident and the cap of invisibility, I prepared to ascend. Thetis watched, all flickering in her eyes. Zeus may not be a perfect king, I muttered, but Poseidon would be far worse. With that, I left for Olympus, bracing for yet another tiresome ordeal. The divine palace atop Olympus. A marvel of divine craftsmanship, the palace of Olympus sat atop the clouds, revered by mortals as the seat of godly power. Once half destroyed by Typhon, it now faced yet another crisis. Not from an external foe like the Titans, Cronus, or even the Gigantes, but from within. Damn it, what do you think you're doing, uncle? Ares' voice thundered across the halls. Isn't it obvious? Poseidon replied coolly. Zeus is finished. Brother Apollo, why are you siding with him? Athena's voice held disbelief. My dear sister, Apollo said with a faint bitterness, I can no longer tolerate a father who chases mortal women while disregarding our mother, or Lady Hera. The civil war among the gods had begun. Zeus, betrayed in his sleep, was bound by divine straps reinforced with Hera's magic and robbed of his thunderbolt. Though he had awakened in shock, the tides had turned against him. Poseidon, Hera, and Apollo imprisoned the once mighty king in a building atop Olympus, summoning the other gods to witness the dawn of a new order. This is outrageous. I oppose this rebellion, Ares declared, his voice filled with anger. Ares, your opposition is meaningless, Hera said coldly. Mother, how could you? Brother Apollo, think carefully before proceeding with this madness, Hermes pleaded. I've already thought long and hard, Hermes, Apollo replied, unmoved. Must we do this amongst ourselves? Poseidon, we still face the Gigantes. Hestia interjected, her tone calm but firm. Poseidon turned to her, his voice filled with disdain. A king who falters against Typhon, even with the sky's divine power, cannot stand above us. Zeus's time is over, Hestia. The gods of Olympus were divided. On one side, those loyal to Zeus clung to the hope of freeing him. On the other, Poseidon sought to ascend the throne, supported by Hera and Apollo. Do we really need to argue? Let's fight and free Father. Ares roared, drawing his sword as red divine power surged around him. The tension reached its peak as gods readied their weapons. Athena's spear gleamed, Hermes' caduceus glowed, and the atmosphere crackled with energy. Poseidon, unfazed, stepped forward, brandishing his trident with effortless confidence. Good? Instead of bickering, show me your resolve with force, he taunted, his tone calm but menacing. Damn it, Ares muttered, gripping his sword tightly. The gods hesitated. Everyone knew the power of the three great gods, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. Separately, they were formidable. Together, they were nearly invincible. Still, Ares charged forward with a furious battle cry. Clang! Boom! Poseidon's trident moved like a blur, its divine power surging like an unstoppable tidal wave. Ares' treasured sword shattered instantly. He was sent sprawling to the ground, his body battered by Poseidon's overwhelming might. Is there anyone else who dares to oppose me? Poseidon roared, pointing his trident at Zeus's golden throne. The room fell into an uneasy silence. The gods loyal to Zeus exchanged hesitant glances, while Poseidon's supporters wore triumphant smirks. Then let us banish Zeus, Poseidon declared, his voice echoing through the hall. I oppose this. The voice cut through the tension like a blade. What? Hera's eyes widened. I sensed no presence, Apollo murmured. Not even the wind carried a whisper, Hestia added. The gods turned, searching for the source of the voice. Suddenly, a figure materialized, stepping from the shadows as if summoned by the void itself. It was Hades. Clad in his simple dark robes, he held the helm of darkness in one hand and his bident in the other. His dark eyes were weary, but resolute. Hades, Poseidon growled. You're interfering? Hades' voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute authority. Stop this rebellion, Poseidon. It will lead only to ruin. I arrived just in time, Hades thought, surveying the scene. Zeus, bound and helpless, sat imprisoned in the building behind Poseidon. His loyal supporters looked battered and desperate, while Poseidon stood triumphant, his allies smirking with confidence. Hades, Ares cried. Uncle Poseidon has lost his mind. Uncle, please. Hermes added, his relief palpable. Hades' gaze lingered on Ares, whose broken sword and dust-covered form told the story of his failed charge. You're a fool, Ares, charging at Poseidon alone. Turning to Poseidon, Hades raised his bident. Do you want to test your trident against me? Poseidon hesitated, his grip tightening on his weapon. He knew Hades was no easy opponent. A battle between the two would drag on indefinitely, and with Zeus's loyalists still in the fight, the rebellion would collapse. Damn it. Fine, Poseidon spat, lowering his trident. Poseidon, Hera hissed. It's over, Hera. With Hades here, we've lost, Poseidon said bitterly. Inside the building, Hades found Zeus bound tightly. When Zeus saw him, his face lit up. Brother, you've come to rescue me. You've made my life difficult again, Zeus, Hades muttered, cutting the straps with his bident. Zeus reclaimed his thunderbolt, his divine powers surging back into him. The rebellion was over. Back in the hall, Zeus's wrath was swift. Poseidon, Apollo, Hera, you've betrayed me. Father. Apollo began, but Zeus cut him off. Enough. Apollo and Poseidon, you will descend to the mortal world as slaves for 1 year. My eagle will ensure you fulfill your duties. And Hera, Zeus's voice was cold. You will be shackled with anvils for 1 year. Hera met his gaze defiantly, but said nothing. As thunder rumbled across the heavens, Zeus turned to Hades. Brother, you have my gratitude. Spare me your thanks, Hades said. If you hadn't been so unfaithful, none of this would have happened. As the gods gathered to clean up the aftermath, their attention turned to Hades. Uncle Hades, your weapon is extraordinary, Hermes said, eyeing the bident. This? Hades held it up. It's a masterpiece crafted by Hephaestus himself. Unlike Ares' sword, it doesn't shatter. Unlike Poseidon's trident, it doesn't boast. The gods stared envious and awed. For the first time, the Lord of the Underworld stood among them, respected not for his power alone, but for his decisive actions. With a faint smirk, Hades turned and disappeared into the shadows. His work done, for now.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
After the rebellion on Olympus was quelled, I spoke to Zeus. Zeus, the reason I was able to realize the rebellion and ascend to Olympus in time was thanks to Thetis. Thetis told you? Thetis is a goddess renowned for her beauty, second only to Amphitrite, Poseidon's consort. Many gods courted her, but is she the one from the prophecy, whose son will surpass his father and become a great hero? Yes, it's the Thetis you're thinking of. Zeus himself once courted her, but quickly gave up after hearing Prometheus's prophecy. He even tried to marry her off to a suitable mortal, but she persistently refused. I understand why you're bringing this up. You want me to acknowledge her contribution and offer her some leniency? Prophecies are absolute, but they can be interpreted in different ways. Just because her son will surpass his father doesn't necessarily mean he'll threaten your authority. The king of the gods, who is more sensitive about his authority than anyone else, adopts a serious expression. After all, Since Zeus overthrew his father, Cronus, he's bound to be wary, even of his own children. So, he won't allow Thetis to marry any god. If her child were to surpass the gods, wouldn't that ultimately mean becoming the king of the gods? That would be a direct threat to Zeus. This requires some thought. As you know, the reason we're here today is because of our own rebellion against Cronus. But things might have been different if Cronus had seen us as his children rather than potential challengers. It's something I ponder from time to time. If Cronus had viewed us as his children, not as potential threats, how might things have turned out? Would we still have overthrown him and seized control of the world? Think about your cherished daughter, Athena. In the end, the prophecy about her didn't come true as expected, did it? If anyone other than you had said that, I might have taken it as a challenge to my authority. Zeus brings a hand to his temple, slightly furrowing his brow. A faint bolt of lightning emanates from his body, proof that he's slightly irritated. Though Athena is now his beloved daughter, when he heard the prophecy that a son born from Metis and him would overthrow him, she was nothing more than a threat. So, Zeus swallowed Metis, who was pregnant with Athena. Eventually, Athena was born after splitting open Zeus's head. It's fortunate that Athena turned out to be a daughter. If she had been a son, the number of gods imprisoned in Tartarus might have increased by one that day. Thetis deserves recognition, and since it's you, who has no interest in the throne, making this request, I'll consider it. Good. Now about Cadmus. Has he been properly rewarded? It's best to leave the matter of Thetis at that. Though Zeus is sensitive to power, since it's his brother who's making the request after aiding him in the rebellion, he's responding reasonably. However, that's a separate matter from Cadmus, who played a significant role in overcoming Typhon's threat. He deserves an appropriate reward. I heard he founded the city of Thebes while searching for his missing sister, a woman named Europa. Oh, well. Zeus suddenly avoids my gaze. Could it be? Let's test the waters. But the rumors say that this Europa is an exceptionally beautiful woman. Ahem. Oh. They say she's so beautiful that even the king of the gods, who's constantly chasing after women, lost his mind and kidnapped her. Ahem. What do you want? Of course. So, it was your fault again. The sister of Cadmus who helped us was taken by you. Perhaps supporting Poseidon or even committing Uranus wouldn't have been such a bad idea after all. What's done is done. But at least let Cadmus meet Europa or put his mind at ease. Fine. You can be quite the nag at times. I said I'll take care of it. Maybe it's this attitude of yours that led Apollo and Hera to betray you. This rebellion seems like it's entirely your fault. But even so, I think the mere 1-year punishment for Poseidon was a reasonable compromise to protect his dignity as the second in command. In moments like these, Zeus does seem somewhat rational. After that, fortunately, Europa was able to get in touch with Cadmus. Zeus even issued an oracle to arrange a meeting between Europa and Cadmus. Though Cadmus made a rather odd face upon hearing Europa's story, it seems the matter was resolved without tarnishing the god's authority. Regardless of Zeus's prowess in other areas, that's none of my concern. Asterisk. After leaving Olympus and returning to the Underworld, I set out on a new journey. This time, I plan to visit some special gods who reside in the Underworld. I instructed a servant to bring a bottle of ambrosia, a bottle of nectar, and some drinking cups, and had them follow me. The outskirts of the Underworld, not the citadel where souls reside, but a dark and damp cave. From the entrance of the cave, an ominous energy emanates, and a chilling cold can be felt. The soul carrying the nectar trembles in fear, so I send them away and proceed inside alone. Hades, you've come again this time too. Inside the dark cave, where neither Hestia's hearth from the underworld nor artificially created lights through divine power reached, a voice echoed. Accompanying it were 3 goddesses with bronze wings, snake hair, and blood flowing from their eyes. It's been a while, Erinyes. Is that nectar you're holding? It looks like there's ambrosia too. The Erinyes, goddesses of vengeance born from the blood that fell to the earth when Uranus's genitals were severed. During the long war for dominion over the world, the war between the Titans and the gods. I met them for the first time after our victory and my assumption of dominion over the Underworld. The three Erinyes sisters sat on the cold floor of the Underworld. The snakes on their heads hissed, as if constantly on alert, and blood continuously dripped from their sharp eyes. Although their appearance was something everyone feared, the first thought that came to my mind was pity. I felt sorry for them, endlessly bleeding from their eyes, and to be honest, I pitied them. Isn't that painful? What did you say? I mean, the bleeding from your eyes? Do you really think that? They looked at me with a puzzled expression, seemingly taken aback by my question. If it's very painful, perhaps next time. Pain always accompanies vengeance. This is nothing. Though the Erinyes were goddesses, they bled red blood instead of ichor. As the blood from their eyes hit the ground, it evaporated immediately. Since that first meeting, I have visited them occasionally to build a relationship, partly because they were neighbors, but also because I felt sorry for them, shunned even by other gods. At first, the goddesses were cold, but over time, they grew accustomed to my visits, and eventually, Hades, sit and drink with us? Very well. It became natural, like a close friend visiting often. The Underworld isn't as busy these days, is it? It must be much different from the past. Tisiphone, who judges those who commit adultery, gently folded her bronze wings and approached me. Alecto, who represents unceasing anger, laughed as she drank nectar. Megaera, who punishes those driven by envy, quietly picked at the ambrosia. The snakes that served as their hair also seemed to be in a good mood, wriggling contentedly. Hiss! One of the snakes on Alecto's head hissed and licked the back of my hand as she drank her nectar. When I stroked the snake's head with my fingers, it seemed pleased and rubbed against me. Thud! Don't touch the hair. Alecto turned her head sharply and spoke softly, her ears turning bright red. But your hair touched me first? Tisiphone sighed as she looked at me and spoke. Hades don't come too often. When we're with you, our edge for vengeance dulls. Well, even Megaera, who was chewing on ambrosia, nodded in agreement. What did I do? These days, there are fewer humans killing their kin compared to before the Great Flood. Perhaps the purge was necessary after all. If you are marked by the Erinyes, they will relentlessly pursue you day and night, thoroughly investigating you. They even appear in your dreams to ceaselessly criticize you, eventually driving their target mad with guilt. With a torch in one hand and their bronze wings flapping, humans feared them so much they avoided even saying their names. Just like how they avoided calling me Hades and used the name Pluto instead. But their situation was even worse than mine. For a long time, there hasn't been much need to visit dreams. Indeed, rather than suffering under us, they would prefer to be one of your subjects. Those people are all paying for their sins in my fortress. Once someone takes their own life, they fall under my judgment, not the Erinyes. Of course, taking one's own life doesn't lessen the punishment. There's absolutely no such thing. I was bored, so thank you for bringing the nectar. These days, the younger gods avoid us. We gods are immortal beings, even without consuming ambrosia and nectar. However, the inability to share a meal and conversation because others fear you must be quite lonely. I had invited the Erinyes to a banquet held in the Underworld before, but they refused, not wanting to spoil the joyful atmosphere. I made the suggestion after slipping into their fortress to avoid the souls, but perhaps it was still too much for them. Hades' office, after many years have passed. The king of the Underworld was, as usual, judging souls and selecting those who would be sent to Elysium. A servant approached him as if there was something urgent to convey. Hades, sir, currently in the Underworld. Let them in. What entered was the soul of an old man with golden hair, faded from aging. I recognized who he was at a glance. A distinguished guest has arrived in the Underworld. Dude, do you know me? He deceived Typhon, stole Zeus' tendons, founded Thebes, and defeated Draken Ismenios, the wicked son of Ares. For this, he was sentenced to 8 years of servitude and, eventually, was forgiven by Ares and married his daughter, Harmonia, becoming the first human to marry a goddess. The great hero Cadmus was now trembling before me, kneeling down. It seems that crossing the river of forgetfulness has erased your memories. Mnemosyne, please fetch some water from the pool of memory. All right, Hades. Since it's Cadmus, I suppose it's fine. Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. When the dead drink from the waters of the river Lethe as they cross over to my fortress, they lose all their memories of the living world. However, if they drink from the pool of memory, which holds the opposite properties, they can recover those memories. Well, occasionally, souls who harbor intense grudges manage to retain their memories even after drinking from the river Lethe. But anyway, the goddess who governs that pool is Mnemosyne, who has just left. She's also the mother of the Muses, who preside over learning and the arts after spending 9 nights with Zeus. Cadmus gradually regained his memories after drinking the water from the pool of memory. The cloudy and confused look in his eyes slowly cleared, and the demeanor of a great hero returned. Ah, Lord Hades, it has been a long time. Yes, it has been a while. I was too busy to attend your wedding with Harmonia. He fully recovered his memories and smiled gently as he bowed, just like the first time we met. It's all right, Lord Hades. As the ruler of the Underworld, you were bound to be busy. Were you not disappointed that I didn't attend the wedding? Ah, if you had come, it would have made me even happier. Humph. You've grown quite witty with age. The reason I restored Cadmus' memories of the living world was simple. I wanted to hear directly from the great hero, who stood tall even before Typhon, about how he viewed his life. What do you think of the life you lived? What do you mean? I continued, with a slightly bitter expression. The curse of misfortune you received as punishment for killing Ares' son, Ismenios. Ah, I find it regrettable that the tragedy of the Thebes royal family, which you founded, stemmed from that curse. Though Ares himself came to regret it, once a curse is cast, not even a god can reverse it. I've heard that Ares regretted cursing Cadmus after giving his daughter to him in marriage. Though Cadmus was the first human to marry a goddess, the ending was not a happy one. Due to the curse of misfortune, the continuous tragedies that befell his descendants led Cadmus and his wife to choose to transform into snakes as they closed their eyes for the final time. Rather than living as snakes, "Oh, Father Ares, do not leave my husband alone. Please, please turn me into a snake as well." Cadmus paused, lost in thought. Despite the many heroic feats he accomplished, in the end, he was made to suffer due to the gods. Would they resent the gods who kidnapped his sister, cursed him, and finally, the cause of his descendants, leading him and his wife to choose death? I'm not one to be ungrateful for the blessings I was given. Different from before? After a moment, he spoke again. The curse of Lord Ares. I can understand him. What parent could forgive the one who killed their child? If anything, I am grateful for the short punishment of 8 years and for being given his daughter. And also, unlike when we first met, this was not a lie to avoid punishment, but the truth. Though his life ended in misfortune, and he met death, his nobility remained intact. Thanks to that, I was able to meet a wife who followed me even in death. Harmonia, the goddess of harmony and daughter of Aphrodite and Ares. Unlike Draken Ismenios, she was an immortal goddess, but chose to follow Cadmus into death. The tragedies of my descendants are also my responsibility. Who else would I blame? Governing Thebes with my wife was rather enjoyable as well. Though I did have some concerns about the remnants of Typhon. The remnants of Typhon? Did they resemble Typhon? Yes. Although it was much smaller, it was a powerful creature with a snake's lower body and a human-like upper body, much like Typhon. I had a difficult time defeating it. A lower body of a snake and an upper body of a human. A creature so strong that even Cadmus, who had defeated Draken Ismenios, struggled against it. My face gradually stiffened. Could it really be a remnant of Typhon? Or could it be a different monster that I know of? But since then, no more remnants of Typhon have been found, so I didn't feel the need to report it to the gods. Lord Hades, it could be a giganes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Where did you find that monster? Ah, I was out for a walk near Thebes when I heard a strange sound and followed it to a cave. That's where I found it. Cadmus said that he encountered a gigantic half-human, half-snake creature that was devouring people in that cave. He drew his sword and fought it, but surprisingly, even for Cadmus, who had slain Draken, it was a tough battle. Not all giganes possessed the same level of strength. Cadmus was fortunate that the entity he encountered was one he could handle. Could it be that hiding in the cave kept it out of the eyes of the Olympian gods? If our grandmother, the Earth Mother Goddess Gaia, is using all her strength to conceal the location of the giganes, then it's no wonder Demeter hasn't noticed. Though Demeter is the goddess of the earth, her power is clearly below that of Gaia. Unlike when we overthrew the Titans, the advantage of the first strike lies with them. Perhaps it's a trap deliberately set to draw in the gods, or it could be the independent actions of a few of them. But we need to confirm if it really is a giganes first, through the goddess of memory. Mnemosyne, please verify Cadmus memories for us. Very well. Close your eyes for a moment. The goddess of memory, Mnemosyne, placed her hand on Cadmus' head and read his memories. It didn't take long before she looked at me with a serious expression and nodded. Damn, it really is a giganes. I see. Very well. For your services in life, you are granted the right to enter Elysium. Elysium? Thank you. Lord Hades. Your wife is also included. May you both live happily there. Thus, the first residents of the Elysian Fields, Paradise, were born. He would live peacefully with his beloved wife in Elysium forever. Though I enjoyed the conversation with Cadmus after a long time, my mind was not at ease. A giganes was found in Thebes, unnoticed by the soldiers of the Underworld, but I don't have the time to personally hunt down the giganes. I can't just abandon the duties of the Underworld and wander around the mortal realm. Perhaps I should take a page from Apollo's book and interfere with the mortal world through my temple? Priest of Delphi, I am someone who has come from afar. Are you here to receive an oracle from the god Apollo as well? Wait in line. But unlike Apollo, with his versatile godhood and ability to prophecy, who would willingly seek the underworld? Apollo is widely worshipped in the mortal world, and his temple on the island of Delphi is famous, but in the mortal world, my temple exists only in one place, Thebes. It was built by the living Cadmus in honor of his connection with me in his country. Send word to Olympus that we've found traces of the giganes, and bring Morpheus to me. Yes, my lord. Soon after, Morpheus arrived after being summoned by a spirit soldier. What is it, Lord Hades? Have I done something wrong? I'm not questioning you about your hobby of occasionally giving humans nightmares. He looked at me with an uneasy expression. Did you think I wouldn't know? But I'm not here to call you out on that. So let's move on. I need your help. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The great hero Cadmus founded the city of Thebes, the one and only temple of Hades in Thebes, or rather, the only one in the entire world. It should be swarming with mortals hoping to receive divine protection, as it serves three gods. Yawn, but instead it was deserted. The priestess of Hades, Phaethon, sat there looking as if she were bored to death. No visitors, and people avoided her because she was a priestess of the underworld. The only good thing about being a priestess of Hades was that no one ever dared to pick a fight with her. Even though she was of marriageable age and one of the top 10 beauties in the city, not even the tough men from the Pancration tournaments dared to flirt with her, let alone talk to her. I'm so bored. They were probably afraid of being dragged to the underworld for messing with the priestess of Hades. But the temple, too, was shunned because of its association with the god of the underworld. Why am I so sleepy in the middle of the day? The temple of Hades, built by the command of the founding king of Thebes, the great king Cadmus, was far too quiet. It was so deserted that no one noticed when the only priestess there fell into an unnatural slumber. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. When Phaethon opened her eyes again, she was no longer in the temple. She found herself in a space filled with darkness so thick she couldn't see an inch ahead. As a well-educated priestess, she quickly understood the situation and knelt down. I do not know which god you are, but do you have orders for this humble human? She had just fallen asleep, but upon waking, she found herself in another world. Her memories were clear, and her body moved fine. This couldn't be just a regular dream. Surely, a god had intervened. But she didn't think it was the god she served, Hades. After all, her lord had been silent for so long. A low, cold male voice echoed from somewhere in the darkness. "I am Pluto." Pluto, the lord of the underworld, another name for the god Hades. Was he here to punish her for not properly managing his temple? She was about to hurriedly explain herself, but stopped when he spoke again. "You are my only priestess in the mortal world. In recognition of your devotion, I will give you both a reward and a task." A reward and a task. So, he did have something for her to do. "From now on, you will revive my temple. I will bestow upon you a blessing to help with that." Her body remained frozen in fear. Her vision went black once more. Finally, knowledge violently poured into her mind before she awoke from the dream. Scream! "Ah! Ah!" Parona, the priestess of Hades' temple, let out a scream as she abruptly stood up from her seat. The pain in her head from the influx of knowledge and the strange energy coursing through her body overwhelmed her. She hurriedly grabbed the water beside her and drank it, trying to organize the memories that had been implanted in her. First, her master, Hades, desired the revival of the temple and the expansion of its influence. Ultimately, he wanted her help in finding creatures called giganes. She shuddered at the thought of the grotesque appearance of the giganes, creatures with the lower body of a serpent, the upper body of a human, and a massive size, man-eating monsters. Ugh! The blessings she had received from Hades were surprisingly numerous. Like the oracle of Apollo in Delphi, who prophesied in a trance, or the huntresses who received the blessings of Artemis by swearing to maintain their virginity, she too could now wield a portion of the power of the god she served. She had the blessing of wealth, attracting fortune even while standing still, the ability to communicate with certain spirits, and a cold, dark energy that she felt when she slightly raised her hand. I was always a bit envious of the priestesses of Hecate. Hecate, the goddess of magic. For a human to wield magic, they must become a priestess or follower of Hecate. Only then could they be taught the knowledge of magic and wield mysterious powers. Even though she had been serving one of the three major gods, she had not been granted any abilities until now. Could it be that the giganes were so dangerous that even her god, who had shown little interest in the mortal world, would go this far? Lord Hades? Honestly, I'm a little scared. And finally, she was appointed as the high priestess of the underworld ruler, Hades. It seems like a responsibility far too great for me. Parona, on the verge of tears, slumped her shoulders. However, as a devoted priestess of Hades, she began to reaffirm her resolve when a guest arrived. A young servant, dressed in a splendid and clean outfit, appeared, likely from the royal family. "Are you the priestess of Hades?" "No." "Of Pluto?" "King Polydoros, the rightful ruler of Thebes, summons you." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Polydoros, the current king of Thebes and a descendant of the great hero Cadmus, who founded the city, clutched his head when he saw the priestess of Hades approaching. As the priestess paid her respects to the king, he slowly began to speak. "Last night, a figure claiming to be the god Morpheus appeared in my dream, telling me that if I revive the temple of Pluto, the kingdom will prosper." This was undoubtedly an oracle. An oracle is when a divine being conveys their will or warnings to humans, predicts a special human's fate, or when a human asks a god for information. And he also told me to speak with the priestess of Pluto. Already, the previous king of Thebes, Pentheus, had met his end due to the involvement of the gods of Olympus. Was another god meddling in Thebes? Pentheus had been killed as a consequence of oppressing the followers of Dionysus, the newly ascended 12th Olympian god. Dionysus was the god of wine and madness, but Hades. So, if I don't follow the oracle, did Pluto say he would punish us by taking all the people of Thebes to the underworld? King Polydoros looked at the priestess before him with eyes filled with a mixture of fear and displeasure. Never before had the words of a beautiful priestess dressed in black felt so terrifying. The priestess, seeming startled by the question, answered calmly. Lord Hades only spoke of the benefits and said he would not impose any punishment. No punishment at all? Polydoros believed that all gods were capricious, self-centered, and arrogant. Anyone who had experiences like his would think the same. The mistake of Pentheus, the king before him, all he did was impose a small sanction on the followers of Dionysus, who were disturbing the peace of Thebes. Squeal. Mother, it's me. Pentheus. A boar. It's a boar. Kill it. It's a boar that disrupts Lord Dionysus's festival. Kill it. Ah, to think that a king, and not just any king, but one killed by the hands of his own mother in a fit of madness. What a horrifying event. Since then, everyone in Thebes had been careful not to defy the will of the gods. They say that no thief ever dares to break into the temple of Hades, and that no one dares to flirt with the beautiful priestess standing before him. So King Polydoros asked once more, "Stop lying and tell the truth. Either way, I intend to follow the will of Pluto. It is the truth. The more followers he has, the more Lord Hades will bless Thebes with wealth. A god of the underworld showing more mercy than the god of wine? Perhaps he is merciful because, in the end, everyone becomes his subject in the underworld. Or could it be that he only acts as a god of wealth when interfering in the mortal world? Hades is also the owner of all treasures beneath the earth. In any case, the will of the gods must be followed, and the risk of harm to Thebes seems low. Although they would be relying on Pluto's mercy, perhaps the city would receive some divine protection." King Polydoros quickly made up his mind and showed his agreement. "All right, I understand. Is there anything you need me to do?" "First, in the name of the royal family. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The cold, dark, and fearsome underworld. I was watching the events unfold in Thebes from here. They say praying to the statue of Pluto will bring the blessing of wealth. That's officially announced by the royal family. The story goes that His Majesty received an oracle. Does this mean that Pluto will now protect Thebes? Not quite. It's more like he will bring wealth to his followers. I breathed life into my marble statue inside the only temple in Thebes. If the faithful offered sincere prayers there, they would receive a minor blessing of wealth. I prayed at the temple and found a drachma on the ground afterward. The name of Pluto is quite fearsome, but going there wouldn't anger Ares, would it? Could praying improperly drag me down to the underworlds? Gradually, more and more people began to visit my temple, which stood alone on the outskirts of Thebes. At first, it was mostly merchants seeking the blessing of wealth. But as the royal proclamation spread and word of mouth grew, ordinary citizens with curiosity also began to visit. The frequency of offerings, which occasionally came from the mortal realm, increased, and as more worshippers experienced the blessings of wealth, they brought others with them. "Oh, Pluto, please ensure my journey to Athens goes smoothly. I'm about to enter a mine. Could you reveal the location of a gold vein?" It was mostly for wealth. Of course, that was what I intended. While the name Hades evokes fear, Pluto, my other name, is favored by all as the god of wealth. If mortals were wary, I could simply operate under another name while in the mortal realm. "Oh, Hades, ruler of the underworld. I wonder how my parents, who passed away last year, are doing. My friend wasn't the most virtuous, but please show mercy." Sometimes, worshippers sought not the god of wealth, but the lord of the underworld. Usually, these were people nearing death or those who had lost a loved one to Thanatos' visit. Their prayers were more desperate than those who invoked the name of Pluto. Occasionally, I would listen to these desperate prayers and have Morpheus arrange for them to meet their deceased loved ones in a dream. Of course, this was only done under the strict supervision of Morpheus or Hypnos, and though mortals usually forgot most of the dream upon waking. Please, let me see my mother just one more time. Sniff. To hear my father's last words in a dream. At least he's doing well where he is. More and more people came to my temple, longing to see their departed loved ones again. Even if their prayers were sorrowful, they were only allowed one chance each. Don't let your heart grow too soft. From this, strange rumors began to spread among mortals. The rumor was that if you wanted to see your dead family members just one more time, you should visit the temple of Pluto, Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The Underworld Hades office. I was quite pleased to see the influence of my temple in Thebes growing day by day. If the temple's influence continued to expand, it might expedite the search for the Gigantes. If needed, I could even descend into the mortal world, taking possession of the priestess. If someone prays about a loved one killed by a half-human, half-serpent monster near Thebes, that would be a sign of the Gigantes. The priestess Parona is doing well. So now all that remains is for the Gigantes to fall into the information network I've set up in the mortal world. Hades. I turned my head and saw the goddess Lethe, with her long silver hair, approaching me, her lips pouting. What could she be displeased about this time? Hades, I hear you've been expanding your temple in Thebes lately? Yes, that's correct. A look of disappointment flashed in the goddess Lethe's dazed, unfocused eyes. Could it be that she's saddened by the absence of her own temple? But why isn't my statue next to yours? While some divine couples are worshipped together in the same temple, but we're not married, are we? The goddess Lethe gazed at me, slightly parting her lips. Her soft words escaped like a whisper. I want to be by your side too. When you look at me like a rain-soaked small animal, it's hard on my heart. In the end, I made a compromise. Over here, you can see the goddess Lethe, who governs the river of forgetfulness, and the goddess Styx, who rules over the Styx River. So, does that mean Lord Pluto is married to both of them? The Styx goddess, as in the one who presides over the oaths sworn on the river Styx. Next to my statue in the temple were statues of the goddess Lethe and the goddess Styx. And the two goddesses were looking at them with satisfaction. This is how it should be. We even have children together. So how could you leave me out? Please make sure to include me next time. Styx, a sword isn't a child. By that logic, Hades and Hephaestus's child would be the bident. Chill. Don't mention that weapon that troubled Kine. How did things end up like this? Is it because the goddess Lethe boasted about her statue being placed next to mine in the temple? Or was it the fault of the goddess Styx, who pleaded that she couldn't be left out? And Kine is supposed to be mine? It didn't even stop there. Is that the statue of Morpheus? Gasp! Why is there a statue of the god Thanatos? So, all these gods live in the underworld? Yes, eventually other gods also asked for their statues to be erected. Like Thanatos, who approached suspiciously, clearing his throat, or Hypnos, who hinted that sometimes mortals didn't recognize him. No, this is just too much. That's the statue of the Furies, isn't it? Yes, I even made statues of the Furies. Judging by the intense reactions, the humans seemed pleased. Even though it's supposed to be Hades' temple, the mortals, who had their attention stolen by the numerous statues all around, finally came to their senses. Only then did they kneel and begin to pray. Let's just offer our prayers. Do you think praying to the goddess of forgetfulness will erase painful memories? I didn't expect the temple to attract so many worshippers. I should have used this method to extend my influence in the mortal realm sooner. After a busy day, with worshippers coming and going in the temple, Lord Hades, once again, there were no stories about the Gigantes today. Parona, the high priestess of my temple, offered her prayers after finishing her day's work. I felt a little sorry for her, as she looked exhausted, with dark circles forming under her eyes due to the sudden increase in her workload. She had to screen those who wished to become priests of Pluto, command the personnel sent by the royal family due to my oracle, and oversee the offerings. Parona had many responsibilities. From the beginning, my temple only had one priest, so it's no wonder Parona was under a lot of pressure. After finishing her prayers, Parona collapsed onto her bed. Phew, today was exhausting, but if she's devoted enough to send me direct prayers, I can intervene in the mortal world through her. I quietly infused her with energy to relieve her fatigue. Through the invisible thread of faith that connected us, vitality was transmitted to Parona. My fatigue is melting away. Thank you, Lord Hades. Work hard again tomorrow, and bring me information about the Gigantes. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The next day, the god Hermes visited the underworld. Everyone's messenger, Hermes, has arrived, uncle. Is he here to tell me what actions the gods on Olympus are taking against the Gigantes? With a cheerful face, He reached into his robe and pulled out a scroll of parchment. The gods of Olympus gathered for a meeting. My father looked serious the entire time. He explained that the gods had convened upon hearing the news that a gigantes had been discovered, posing a great threat to us. The possibility of another war was discussed, as well as the idea of issuing oracles to humans to find the gigantes. Poseidon, who rules over the seas, ordered his followers to check the coasts and rivers, while hundreds of eagles under Zeus' command scoured the world. Other gods, like Pan, the god of nature, also searched the earth, but there was no trace of that gigantes monster. I wandered until my shoes wore out. Wait, your shoes can wear out? Hephaestus' inventions are really beyond understanding. I glanced briefly at the winged sandals Hermes was wearing. Hermes then continued, explaining that according to Athena's analysis, the gigantes killed by Cadmus likely acted alone. But it's possible that Gaia sent it to test the gods' vigilance or to observe their reactions. If Lord Poseidon and Lady Demeter upend the earth, the creatures might come out. But then again, that would endanger human lives. The reason we are at a disadvantage in fighting the gigantes. That seems to be the issue. We have things we need to protect. You're right. Things are different now compared to the time before you were born, during the Titanomachy. During the war with the Titans, it was a full-scale battle where opposing deities fought with all their might. But now, we have things to protect. Humans, living beings. One might think that it wouldn't matter if humans died in the fight, since they could just be recreated. But the gods who have grown fond of this world wouldn't make such a decision lightly. Many gods have fallen in love with humans, as seen in the case of Cadmus and Harmonia. Zeus himself has fathered countless children with mortal women. And even aside from that, it's hard to ignore those who constantly offer prayers and devotion to the gods. Punishing a village or a nation is one thing, but wiping out all of humanity is another. I've already given orders to the nymphs and minor deities to contact me immediately if they find any trace of the gigantes. And Apollo has also issued an oracle at the Delphic temple, warning humans of the dangerous monsters. It seems the other gods have taken whatever measures they can. Well, I must be going now. I still need to visit Lady Demeter. Until next time, then, O Hades, bestow your grace upon the new priests. As soon as I sent Hermes on his way, I heard Parona calling for me from the mortal world. Inside the temple, a few people dressed in black knelt before her. It seems Parona, the high priestess, has chosen some worshippers to assist her. When they all bowed their heads and clasped their hands together, I could feel the sincerity of their faith. Good, it looks like she picked the right ones. I can easily tell if someone is just pretending to pray or faking their devotion to me. Thank you. Oh, this is he acknowledging us as priests? As black divine energy enveloped their bodies, I shared with them fragments of my power. I granted them immunity from minor illnesses and bestowed upon them a blessing that would notify Parona or me if any of them died. I also granted them a portion of my blessing of wealth, so they wouldn't fall too far behind the priests of other gods, especially considering the followers of Dionysus spreading from Thebes. It feels a bit like I'm encroaching on my nephew's playground by gathering worshippers in Thebes, where Dionysus has established his presence. Semele, the daughter of the great Theban hero Cadmus and Harmonia, gave birth to the demigod Dionysus with Zeus. Eventually, Dionysus ascended to the ranks of the 12 Olympian gods. At that time, all the thrones of the 12 Olympians were already occupied, but Hestia, the most benevolent of the Olympians, ceded her golden throne to Dionysus. Though it was problematic that he retaliated many times over when humans even slightly disrespected him during his ascension to godhood, there wasn't much anyone could do, as one could hardly force the god of wine and madness to behave more gently. I still remember when Pentheus, the king of Thebes, who met his death after offending my nephew, arrived in the Underworld. This is so unfair. Oh, Hades, I was just trying to do what was best for the people of Thebes. I see. Why don't you drink a little more of the Lethe water and then continue your story? Ah, Mother, Dionysus. Pentheus, who had died at the hands of his madness-driven mother, held on to his memories even after crossing the river Lethe due to the deep grudge he bore. It was pitiful to see him scream in a manner that suggested Dionysus madness had infected him. Even Thanatos, who had escorted him to the underworld, wore a bitter expression. Take it easy, take it easy. Your madness is too much for ordinary humans to handle. Since you're the one telling me this, uncle, I'll be more careful. Now that I've said this, he'll likely restrain himself a bit. But can a god of madness truly suppress his madness? Even as I spoke to him, I honestly doubted it would be possible. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Hades, what's the matter? While I continued observing the mortal world, this time, the goddess Lethe called for me. The emotions on her beautiful face were a mix of confusion and concern. I granted blessings to the worshippers, but I think I made a mistake. Since the statues of the goddess Styx, the goddess Lethe, and mine had been placed together, many humans had mistakenly come to believe that the three of us were married. As a result, many worshippers prayed to the statues of those goddesses next to mine. Some worshippers prayed to me to erase their bad memories, so I erased a few. I took a moment to look into the mortal world. Who are you? Oh dear. Father, don't you remember me? It's me. Get out of my way. Stop bothering strangers. This morning, you said you were going to pray, but why? An elderly man, who seemed like he'd soon receive a visit from Thanatos, was arguing with a middle-aged man. They appeared to be father and son, but it seemed the elderly man couldn't remember. They prayed to me to erase their bad memories, so I just erased a little. How much of that old man's memory did you erase? I made a small mistake. I erased about 30 years, starting from his most recent memories. Oh dear, goddess, erasing 30 years is hardly a small mistake. It seems I made a significant error in the process of granting power to the worshippers. I'll have to ask the goddess Mnemosyne to restore his memory quickly. He was so earnest in his plea, so I just made a slight adjustment. In the mortal world, this would be called memory loss? Dementia, perhaps. Feeling guilty for accidentally harming mortals, I grabbed the cheeks of the goddess Lethe and gently stretched them. The goddess's soft skin stretched under my fingers. What are you doing? When granting blessings to mortals, you must always be careful. Especially since humans live, at most, for about 100 years, you need to be extra cautious. To us gods, 30 years might seem like a short time, but to humans, losing 30 years of memory is truly a disaster. Am I turning into the goddess Styx? I didn't even realize I was lecturing. Okay, I didn't pinch your ears, so why are they turning so red? This is the Underworld, the place mortals fear the most, where they inevitably face death. It is also the dwelling place of Hades, one of the great three gods who rule over parts of the world. Because of this, all sorts of things happen here. Extraordinary events beyond human imagination occur. But, whoosh, what in the world? No one would have thought that the underworld would suddenly be filled with light. Hades! Hades! The entire underworld is now illuminated. I can see it myself. The goddess Lethe hurriedly burst into my chambers. I quickly dressed and stepped outside to survey the situation in the underworld. What on earth is happening? Could it be that the god Apollo has descended into the underworld? What nonsense! This could only happen if Zeus' lightning had struck the underworld. That can't be. Where is Lord Hades? The souls were panicking, just like vampires under the sunlight seen in some of Hades' past life, the 21st century's fictional works. Of course, that's understandable. The underworld is so deep that light never reaches it. There are hearths of Hestia placed here and there, and although they emit some light, it's very faint. Most of the underworld is dark, pitch black, and cold. I'm telling you, this is definitely the god Apollo's wrath. Maybe Lord Hades is fighting with Zeus. The entire underworld quickly descended into chaos. Spirits were running around, and the attendants were trying to calm the situation while also seeking out the gods. But were the gods calm then? What in the world is going on? Hades, have you quarreled with the god Zeus? Not at all. Starting with Hypnos, the god of sleep, who rushed into my office. No, Lady Styx, I've never quarreled with him. No one but Zeus could have caused something like this. Well, first, We need to quickly get this situation under control. Morpheus, go down to Tartarus immediately and check if the Titans are securely imprisoned. Yes, sir. Next, I ordered the attendants of the Underworld to calm the chaos among the souls as much as possible. Additionally, I instructed them to send lower-ranking gods to the mortal realm to investigate if anything unusual was happening there since, aside from the light, no other anomalies had been detected. Ark, Lord Hades. What? I just sent him to check the mortal realm? So why is he back so soon? Lord Hades. The sun. The sun is too close. What nonsense is this? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The lower god who had gone to check the mortal realm returned, with parts of his body scorched and ichor flowing from his wounds. What does he mean by the sun is too close? Helios is driving the sun chariot dangerously close to the earth. The mortal world has become a Tartarus. That can't be. Is this another act of Apollo? Helios, the Titan god, son of Hyperion and Thea, who holds the divinity of the sun. He drives the sun chariot, which even Zeus cannot control, and thus maintains his position as a sun god alongside Apollo. Of course, he sided with us during the Titanomachy, along with his sister Selene, the goddess of the moon, and Eos, the goddess of dawn. But still, Helios has never stopped driving the sun chariot. But this is definitely not the power of Apollo. The divine horses pulling the sun chariot were running wild. The divine horses that are always aflame are running wild. I have always trusted Helios' perfect ability to control the sun chariot. Did Helios fall under Aphrodite's enchantment? Or was he attacked by the Gigantes? Or what on earth could it be? Fortunately, it wasn't long before the bright light that had cast a shadow over the underworld began to fade away. As the underworld returned to its usual darkness, the souls and gods alike sighed in relief. The light is finally receding. What on earth could have happened? Should we send a messenger to Olympus to find out? Although the situation has calmed down, there's no need for that, as I've already brought the cause. The gods, who had been discussing the situation, turned their heads towards the deep, resonant voice that echoed through the hall. There stood Thanatos, the black-winged god of death, wearing an expression as grim as the god of destruction, holding the soul of someone who appeared to have just died. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That soul is the one who caused the underworld to light up just now. As all eyes focused on him, Thanatos frowned and continued speaking. This is the soul of one who was struck by Zeus' lightning and fell from the sun chariot to his death. For now, Mnemosyne, please fetch some water from the well of memory. The soul was of a young man who appeared to be in his late teens or early 20s at most, with his golden hair, and his features resembling those of Helios. Could it be? Ugh, WH, where am I? I was sure that... Yes, boy, this is the underworld. Were you driving the sun chariot in place of Helios? The underworld. Then, as I feared. Now, tell me exactly how you ended up here, and the reason why you fell from the sun chariot to your death. The soul, who had been in a state of shock, finally opened his mouth after being prompted by Thanatos. I am Phaethon, son of the god Helios. We listened closely as the soul began to tell his story. Phaethon, who was raised by his mother alone without his father. When Phaethon came of age, his mother told him that his father was Helios, the sun god. With that revelation, Phaethon left home and traveled far and wide to find his father. When he finally found him, the god Helios, in his joy at meeting his son, swore on the river Styx that he would grant him any wish. The river Styx? Ah! At this, the goddess Styx, who was standing beside me, groaned as if she had realized something. Most of the gods seemed to understand the cause of this calamity. I signaled Phaethon to continue, wanting to hear the story through to the end. Yes, I made a foolish choice there. I asked my father, who had sworn on the river Styx, to let me drive the sun chariot. What? You madman? Huh, that's a chariot that neither Apollo nor even Lord Zeus can control. And you, of all people, were you listening to the whispers of Dionysus? The horses of the sun chariot can only be controlled by Helios. As the son of a great god, yet raised as a mortal, Phaethon could never have hoped to manage them. It was obvious what would happen if the sun came too close to the earth. Right now, the mortal world must be filled with charred bodies and withered trees. If Zeus hadn't thrown his lightning bolt to destroy the sun chariot, all life on earth might have perished. As the horses ran wild, the earth was utterly scorched, and eventually I was struck by lightning from the sky and sent here. Phaethon, who seemed to be at a loss for words, began to weep softly. It's truly a tragic story, meeting his father only to lose his life due to a reckless request. Your judgment will be postponed for now. Wait over there. But that aside, the crime of causing so much suffering and death must be punished severely. With countless souls from the mortal world flooding in, I had Phaethon set aside. His fate would be decided shortly. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Not long after, in a heavy silence, Phaethon knelt with his head bowed, awaiting his judgment. Before him sat Hades, the god of the underworld, behind a large desk. A low voice emanated from the somber god, reaching Phaethon's ears. I shall now pass judgment. As the other gods, who were gathered to witness the judgment of a sinner who had greatly affected the mortal world, fell silent. Only Hades spoke of his crimes. The damage your reckless actions caused to the mortal world is immense. Rivers dried up, many villages and cities were set ablaze, and countless lives were lost due to the heat of the sun chariot that you could not control. The son of Helios, his head bowed, could do nothing but weep. He did not utter a single word in his defense. Ignorance is not a crime, but you must bear the consequences of the destruction your ignorance has caused. Phaethon was prepared for severe punishment. He, too, had seen the countless lives perish while the sun chariot ran wild above the earth. Ah, Apollo, please save us. It's too hot. My skin, it's burning. Water. I need water. Lord Zeus. Why? In his mind, he could still see the hundreds, perhaps thousands, of people who had begged for their lives as they were burned alive. And that was just the humans. There were also the animals, plants, nymphs, and all the other forms of life. Even though he had never imagined such consequences would result from driving the sun chariot, he knew he had to pay for the countless lives lost because of his actions. You will be sentenced to labor for several hundred years on the outskirts of the underworld. This is the karmic retribution for extinguishing so many lives. At least a few hundred years. Phaethon's lips tightened. But this was not the end. Furthermore, you will be denied the blessing of reincarnation, and even after your sentence is complete, you will not receive the blessing of forgetfulness. The blessing of forgetfulness, governed by the goddess Lethe, is essential for mortals who have limits to their mental endurance. No mortal can handle the accumulation of endless memories. Though the other gods, with their tender hearts, showed a bit of pity on their faces, that was all. They too thought that Phaethon's punishment was fitting. However, Hades had not yet finished speaking. But considering that your father, the god Helios, neglected you, what? And the fact that you acted without malice, as well as the fact that your father rashly swore on the river Styx, I shall show you a bit of mercy. Phaethon, who had been in despair, instinctively looked up at the lord of the underworld. Mercy, really? I'll show you a bit of mercy. Mercy for someone like him who had probably killed thousands, maybe tens of thousands of lives? What was this about? Those who come to the underworld after death can never leave, especially not a criminal as severe as you. But Phaethon focused all his attention on the next words. If you wish, I can invite the god Helios to the underworld so you can meet him one last time. The worlds of the living and the dead are strictly separated. Though gods are free to come and go, it was impossible for a great sinner like Phaethon to meet someone from the living world. He hadn't even dared to hope for mercy to lessen his punishment. I sent a messenger to Olympus and learned that the god Helios is in seclusion, mourning your loss. But if he could meet you, he would surely come to the underworld. Thank you so much. Tears welled up and fell from Phaethon's eyes. If he could see his father one last time to apologize, this is not entirely for your sake. If the god Helios remains in deep sorrow and does not move the sun, the world will be thrown into chaos. Though the god Hades said this, Phaethon knew the truth. If the sun did not move, and the night continued without end, more people would die, increasing Hades' power. The more lives lost in the world above, the more the lord of the underworld would benefit. This was indeed an act of mercy. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Helios' sun palace. The sun god Helios, grieving over the death of his son, had not left his palace. Without the palace's master to drive the sun chariot, the world above was left in continuous darkness. Why hasn't the sun risen today either? Lord Helios, please have mercy and grant us light. Lord Zeus, sigh. At this rate, all the crops will die. The world above was filled with the pleas of all living beings. Eventually, Zeus came to see him personally. Standing outside the palace, Zeus cleared his throat and called out to Helios. Helios, are you in there? But the grieving father gave no answer. I'm sorry that I had to strike down your son with a thunderbolt, but I had no other choice. Not knowing if Helios was even listening, Zeus continued to speak. The world is in chaos because you haven't driven the sun chariot. I understand the sorrow of losing a child, but could you please return to your duties? But the master of the palace remained silent. No matter what Zeus, the one who had struck down his son, said, it wouldn't change Helios' feelings. Zeus briefly considered forcing the door open and entering, but he quickly dismissed the idea. He feared that such a rash action might worsen Helios' seclusion. Father, you were here after all? Hermes, what's the matter? It was the messenger god Hermes who approached Zeus, who was troubled by the sun god's strike. With a confident expression, Hermes spoke. Uncle Hades has offered to let Phaethon meet Helios one last time. If we explain this well to Helios, what? My brother will allow a meeting with a soul already dead. Before Zeus could even finish his sentence, the door to the sun palace opened, and from within emerged a god. He was a god with radiant golden hair and golden garments, and his eyes burned with the heat of the sun. It was the great sun god, Helios, who had come out after hearing Hermes' words. Looking extremely anxious, he rushed to the messenger god and shouted, Hermes, is that true? Hades will let me meet my dead son. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. A bright light filled the underworld. But it was different from the rampaging light of the sun chariot Phaethon had driven. This light was coming from just one person, no, one god. Hades, let me see my son. It hadn't been long since a messenger had been sent to Olympus, yet the god Helios had already arrived in the underworld. The more his emotions flared, the more the energy of the sun radiated from his body. Even I could feel the heat, and the souls of the dead had already retreated far away. Phaethon is over there. Phaethon. The god Helios hurriedly ran toward a corner where Phaethon was. And so, father and son were reunited. Hick, father, I'm so sorry. No, it's all my fault. I should have taken you to Olympus the moment you were born. Because of my reckless actions, the world, and even your sun chariot. Enough. Say no more. I'm just glad I could see you one last time. They hugged each other tightly. Tears streamed endlessly from the eyes of the father and son who had been estranged. I was wrong. To your mother, too. Please forgive me. No, father. But the time they could spend together was limited. The world of the living and the world of the dead and the living, must remain strictly separated. If they pitted Phaethon and brought him back to life, the god Helios would start feeding his son nectar and ambrosia, and then all the other gods would beg me to bring back their beloved humans, just as in Helios' case. It's time to say your final goodbyes. The guilty must be punished. I stepped away to give them some privacy to say their last farewells. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Sniff. As I stepped away, I heard the sound of someone sniffling from somewhere nearby. The sound was coming from the outskirts of the fortress. I started walking toward it. Sniff. The goddess leaning against the fortress wall was shedding tears of sorrow. Styx, the goddess? The face of the goddess Styx, who was quietly crying with her hand covering her mouth, was wet with tears, and her hands were busy wiping away the flowing liquid. She must have sensed my presence because she quickly turned to look at me. "Ah, Hades, please, don't look over here." Is it because of Helios' oath? The goddess Styx fell silent. An oath sworn on the river Styx is an unbreakable vow, even for the gods. It was a reward for the goddess who was the first to come and lend her strength in the war against the Titans. But every time a tragedy occurred because of an oath sworn on the river Styx, her heart, sometimes, I just think, if only the oaths on the river Styx didn't exist. I could guess the rest of her thoughts. The tragedy of Semele, the mother of Dionysus and Zeus, and now the tragedy of Phaethon, all were caused by the gods who could not break the absolute oath sworn on the river Styx. These tragedies are not your fault, my lady. But if I had just refused Zeus' offer to use my river as proof of an oath back then, we gods are immortal and possess incredible power beyond comparison to mortals. Even the goddess Styx, who is crying in front of me now, could easily curse and destroy an entire city. But because we possess such great power, we are arrogant and proud. The river Styx, where any promise must be kept, is the shackle placed upon us. Even Zeus, the king of the gods, must keep any oath sworn on it. But not all vows sworn on the goddess's name bring negative results. I was about to share this truth with the goddess Styx. The oaths sworn on the river Styx don't always lead to tragedy. Today's event is an unusual case. What? It seems you've been too busy lately to pay attention to the world above. But how about listening to the prayers of the mortals once again? The world above, where countless people of all ages walk around. In my temple, where the statue of the goddess Styx stands, people still gather. Why did you call me here? Because I swear on the river Styx that I love you. Will you marry me? A man confessed his love to his partner in front of the statue of the goddess Styx. I swear on the river Styx. I didn't steal the sheep. Now it's his turn. I. If you have nothing to hide, swear like I did. Well, the truth is things have been difficult lately. People used the oath on the river Styx to reveal the thief who had stolen from them. I swear before the statue of the goddess Styx, even if the old man is called by Lord Thanatos. Oh, come on. There's no need for such a vow. But well, then I too swear. If my wife should go before me, an elderly couple vowed to carry on with each other in their hearts, even if one of them died first. Humans swear to reveal the truth, profess love, and exchange vows. Oh, if the weight of the goddess's name didn't exist, we wouldn't witness such scenes. When humans break an oath sworn on the river Styx, they are sucked into Tartarus after death. Though mortals feared this, they also used the oath to affirm each other's hearts from time to time. Humans, they make oaths more often than I expected. I was surprised too. Perhaps it's because a statue of the goddess has been erected in my temple. The goddess Styx, who had been thinking that oaths sworn on her name only brought misfortune, looked up at me. She seemed more at ease now, her face more relaxed than before as she pondered for a moment. A somewhat awkward silence passed, and then the black-haired goddess, who had wiped away her tear stains, smiled faintly. Had the guilt-ridden heart found some relief? Thank you, Hades. I always thought you only played pranks on Caine. What? Testing the durability of weapons is an essential task. I have never once sworn an oath on the river Styx that I played a prank on Caine, but I chose to remain silent because I wanted to keep watching the beautiful smile of the goddess who was now laughing. After laughing for a moment while covering her mouth, the goddess Styx stepped closer, her softly rising lips and the enchanting smile in her eyes. Please don't tell anyone about what happened today. The goddess, who had moved close to me, placed one palm on my chest and her right index finger on my lips. Both my chest and lips felt so soft that I was tickled by something. I answered her as if I were entranced. I swear on the river Styx, the underworld, the final destination and resting place of souls. In this realm, many gods exist, as humans are aware. Starting with Hades, the king of the underworld, there is Thanatos, the god of death, Lethe, the goddess of oblivion, Styx, the goddess of the absolute oath, Hypnos, the god of sleep, and Morpheus, who governs dreams. However, they are not the only ones who dwell in the underworld. For example, Ferry Fair. What? Despite being a high-ranking god as the son of Erebus, the god of darkness, and Nyx, the goddess of night. If you don't have it, I can't let you cross. There's something in my mouth. You've got it there. Open your mouth. I'll take it myself. He is plagued by the unrelenting labor of rowing the boat every day. Charon, the ferryman of the river Acheron. Yes, 1 obelisk, 1/6 of a drachma, is correct. But again, just 1 coin, huh? Teske. A white-haired, weary-looking old man, bearing the appearance of a worn-out sailor. Isn't Charon, the ferryman, constantly burdened with duties as demanding as those of Hades or Thanatos, the true worker of the underworld? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. When someone dies in the world above, they first encounter a manifestation of Thanatos, who brings their soul to the entrance of the underworld. After that, they meet the first river in the underworld, the Acheron. As they wait on the wide and quiet riverbank, an old man rowing a boat calls out to the souls. I'm dead. Ugh. But who are they? Why are you asking what you already know? If you don't pay the fare, I can't let you cross the river. Charon, the ferryman of the river Acheron. He will never let a soul cross the river without receiving a coin, 1 obelisk. Because of this, the banks of the Acheron River are always filled with wandering, sorrowful souls. The story of Charon has spread even in the world above. So when someone dies, it's customary for the family to place a coin in their mouth. But for travelers who die in foreign lands and are devoured by animals, those who die on the battlefield and whose bodies are never recovered for a proper burial, or those who, due to divine punishment, leave no trace of their bodies, such souls can never find peace, even in death. One might think that Charon must be incredibly wealthy, as the dead flock to the river Acheron every day. Whiz splash. But in fact, Charon can only keep the second coin and beyond. The first coin he receives must be thrown into the river Acheron. This is the law of the river Acheron, which is why Charon is always poor. Sigh. I work to death, yet my pockets are always empty. Let's take a moment to consider Hades' past life. Isn't this what we call exploitative labor, almost like being an unpaid slave? We've arrived. Get off, you wretches. Sniff. Yes. Mother. I'm sorry. Damn. I should have dodged that bastard's knife. It hadn't been long since the souls had boarded Charon's boat when they arrived at the other side. Thus, after dropping off the souls, Charon rowed a few times and then drifted away again. After crossing the Acheron, the next is the river of lamentation, Cocytus. Ugh. Mother. Wah. It's so cold. This river reflects the past appearances of souls, causing them to fall into sorrow. Regretful memories from the world above, moments of love, cherished memories. And the current situation of facing death after leaving all those things behind shakes the hearts of the souls. The souls, crossing the river of lamentation with a gloomy expression, now face the river of fire, Phlegethon. What the river is on fire. It's flames all around, but it's not hot. In the world above, fire is hot. Though the souls hesitated for a moment at this memory, they soon realized that they didn't feel any heat. It's really not hot? Yeah, I guess because we're already dead. The bodies of the souls catch fire, but there's no sensation of heat. Instead, like scrubbing away old dirt, a refreshing feeling envelopes them as they cross the river once more. Having been purified of the filth of the world above by the river of fire, Phlegethon, they now face the river of forgetfulness. The river Lethe. Go that way. The beautiful silver-haired goddess Lethe occasionally appears by the riverbank to guide the souls. Following the hand of the goddess who points across the river, the souls plunge into the river. How much farther? This river isn't much different from the world above. The souls do not suffocate, but the water of forgetfulness that naturally enters their mouths causes their memories of the world above to fade. Sometimes, souls with intense grudges retain their memories of the world above, but this does not apply to the ordinary. Following their instincts, the souls finally reach the last river, before entering the underworld. The River of Hatred Styx, a long and wide river that winds around the underworld 9 times. Sometimes the goddess Styx guides the souls, but today, one of her attendants hastens them along. After crossing the river and walking a short distance, the souls finally see Hades' fortress. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Eek! Over there, Hades' fortress, stretching across the entire underworld. Its imposing grandeur, visible even from afar, intimidates the souls. As they walk along the wide road that leads from the river Styx to the fortress, a massive gate leading into the fortress appears. And in front of the gate, Cerberus, the 3-headed monster, was baring its teeth. Growling, growling. The foam dripping from its sharp fangs was laced with poison. The dignity of this divine beast, born from the storm god Typhon and empowered by Hades, terrified the souls. However, when Cerberus saw the approaching souls, it stepped aside as if uninterested in them. The loyal beast of the underworld, faithfully following Hades' orders, only devours souls trying to leave through the gate. As the souls cautiously passed through the massive gate guarded by Cerberus, the underworld's attendants appeared and guided them somewhere. Come this way, humans. There are others still being judged, so wait here for a moment, and most of you will be living in the underworld. So here are some things you need to know. You must have lost your memories of the world above after crossing the river Lethe, right? We'll explain the gods to you again. The souls were led to a building or a square-like space where they listened to explanations. As new knowledge entered the minds of the souls who had forgotten their memories of the world above, the dead began to understand the situation they were in. Judgment? Was I a good person in the world above? I'm anxious. As the souls were busy absorbing the new knowledge, an attendant approached them. Now it's your turn. You there from here to here. Follow me. The souls got up one by one and followed the attendant in order. They were now being led to the place where Hades would pass judgment. When about 100 souls had gathered in a vast open space, their eyes fell upon a dark-haired, dark-eyed god. Holding a parchment in his hand with an extremely weary expression was Hades, the lord of the underworld. He was sorting through piles of documents stacked on a platform, receiving reports from his attendants. As the god of the underworld waved his hand dismissively, black winds swept through the crowd. The emotionless voice reached the souls, who staggered as the black wind brushed past them. There are no souls bound for Tartarus or Elysium, so next, move to this side. You will now be taken to the judges. After Hades finished his brief sorting, filtering out criminals, heroes, and special individuals, the souls were sent to be judged by the 3 judges of the underworld, the Minos brothers. The Minos brothers meticulously examined the severity of the crimes the souls had committed in the world above and sentenced them accordingly. Occasionally, the procedure was reversed, with the Minos brothers judging the souls first and sending those difficult to sentence to Hades. You killed 3 neighbors and committed theft in the world above. Then let's sentence you to hard labor on the outskirts of the underworld, repairing the fortress. Is the next soul that old man? Minos, a son born of Zeus and Europa, who was once the king of Crete in life. In death, he became one of the judges of the underworld alongside his 2 brothers. Their judgments were renowned for their fairness, and so Hades entrusted them with the judgment of the souls. Those who have committed great sins must serve their sentences in the underworld, while those found to have little to no sin by the Minos brothers' judgment will live in Hades' fortress. The landscape of the underworld isn't so different from the world above. The only difference is that all the dead souls are semi-transparent and do not consume food. Even here, there are laws and order, professions and rules. In the vast expanse of the underworld, just as wide as the world above, the souls who have not yet been reincarnated engage in conversations. Will I also be reincarnated soon? I'm planning to stay here and become an underworld attendant. Lady Lethe is truly beautiful, as always today. Watch your mouth. She's the mistress of the underworld. Wasn't that Lady Styx? After cleansing their sins, the souls prepare for reincarnation in the order they arrived in the underworld. If, during this process, a soul refuses reincarnation and wishes to stay in the underworld, they are allowed to remain, considering the circumstances. If they remain in the underworld, they are usually assigned jobs by the attendants or lower gods. They might become guards patrolling the underworld, attendants, or maids to gods like Hades or Hypnos. Or they might be tasked with repairing the vast fortress or building homes or spaces for souls to reside in. It seems a lot of dust has accumulated here. I should do some cleaning. A hole has appeared in the fortress. This must be repaired quickly. I heard one of Hades' maids has been reincarnated. Really? Then they'll be recruiting again soon. Should I apply? Additionally, the souls of the underworld, having adapted to the dark, gloomy underworld, could see ahead even without light. Hestia's hearths scattered throughout the underworld provide the souls with comfort and warmth, but the light itself is of little use. Because of this, they are more familiar with night than day, and with darkness rather than light. This is the daily life of the souls living in the underworld, a part of the massive system where life and death are repeated. But if this cycle were to break, wouldn't it be a disaster? The peaceful mortal world. Sisyphus, a demigod born of the wind god Aeolus and a mortal woman named Inerity. King Sisyphus, the founder of Corinth, was known for his cunning and trickery. There are many anecdotes that showcase Sisyphus' wisdom, one of which involves a demigod named Autolycus, the son of Hermes, the god of messengers and thieves. Autolycus, who was always stealing without getting caught thanks to the abilities granted by Hermes, once stole cattle from Sisyphus. Look here, my name is carved on the underside of the hooves. These are indeed my cattle, and you are a thief. Shut up. Isn't it possible that one of your servants secretly carved that in? By preemptively carving his name on the hooves of his cattle, Sisyphus successfully caught Autolycus in the act. Although Autolycus had changed the gender and color of the stolen cattle using his abilities, the undeniable evidence left him with no choice but to surrender. Trusting in his own cunning and wisdom, King Sisyphus made a grave mistake. Are you Asopus, the river god? Yes, I am. What brings the king of Corinth to me? I know where your daughter, Aegina, who went missing, is. What? You know where my daughter is? If you provide Corinth with clear spring water, I'll tell you. Convinced by the confident Sisyphus, the river god Asopus lightly waved his hand, causing clear spring water to flow into the city. Your daughter was abducted by Zeus. What? Is that true? It's true. If you follow this mountain path, you'll see Zeus with your daughter. The river god hurriedly followed the path Sisyphus pointed out. And soon, Father Sniff, Lord Zeus, how could you do this? Ah, ahem. Well, I'll be off now. He found Zeus, who had forcibly violated his daughter Aegina, with Aegina crying bitterly. Although he discovered the fleeing Zeus and shouted in anger, it was already too late. But that wasn't the end of it. Zeus realized what Sisyphus had done. Naturally, Zeus, in his usual arrogant manner, was furious. How dare a mere mortal interfere in the affairs of the gods? Inform my brother Hades that there is a grave sinner, and request he send Thanatos. With the king of the gods behaving this way, the future of Olympus looks grim as ever. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. This is the dark underworld. The god of death, Thanatos, who is always busy sending countless avatars to the mortal world, is here. The god, with black wings and the appearance of an old man, was pleased with the unusual task. Thanatos, Zeus has contacted us, asking you to escort a grave sinner to the underworld. A human who committed a crime serious enough to warrant my attention? Hades, who knows? He requested your presence in Olympus, so please go quickly. To Olympus? How long has it been since I've been to Olympus? I'm truly grateful, but you must return quickly. We need to verify whether the human really committed a crime. Thanatos rarely had the opportunity to visit Olympus. He was always too busy to be invited to the gods' banquets on Olympus, and since the gods who live there are immortal, there was no need for him to visit to collect souls. This was a short break, a brief respite granted by Hades, the lord of the underworld, who pitied his hard labor. For the duration of capturing the grave sinner in Olympus, he could rest a little, with gratitude in his heart for the master of the underworld, who occasionally looked at him with pity. Thanatos moved his true form, not just an avatar, to Olympus. Thanatos, you're finally here. That's the one. That impudent human dared to meddle in the affairs of the gods. Thanatos soon discovered Zeus raging, pointing angrily towards the mortal realm. If a human had interfered in the affairs of the gods, maybe they stole a sacrifice or incited the gods with lies. For now, Thanatos decided to investigate the human as per the supreme god Zeus' command. He found King Sisyphus of Corinth, the founder of the city, leisurely drinking wine in his palace. But what crime did he commit? Oh, I know the human too, Thanatos. Thanatos' question to Zeus was interrupted by another god's voice from beside him. It was Hermes, the messenger of the gods, holding his caduceus. Usually cheerful, he seemed uncharacteristically sullen as he spoke to Thanatos. He overestimated his abilities and managed to outsmart my son. The power to steal, which I granted, TSK. He probably did something to anger my father again this time. Thanatos found the messenger god's disgruntled attitude toward the humans somewhat convincing. Well, whatever he did, it must have been something serious. And with Zeus speaking out, what's one more wretched human? Anyway, once he brings the soul to the underworld, Hades or the three judges, including Minos, will take care of the judgment. With that thought, Thanatos leisurely spread his black wings and flew to the royal palace of Corinth. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. This is the Corinthian royal palace. Sisyphus revealed a secret to his wife, Queen Merope. Surely, the god Zeus holds a grudge against me and will send Thanatos. Then, what should we do? Listen carefully, my dear. Even if I die, do not hold a funeral for me. Understand? He was already preparing, anticipating the arrival of Thanatos. First, he warned his wife to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Sisyphus, holding a large club made of oak, hid behind the curtains in his bedroom, waiting for Thanatos. And soon, the god of death, Thanatos, entered the bedroom to take Sisyphus to the underworld. Sisyphus gripped the club tightly, ready to strike as soon as Thanatos approached. However, does he think he can escape my senses? And with a mere club, no less? This man has lost his mind. Thanatos was well aware of Sisyphus' plan. Though Sisyphus was a demigod, aside from his wisdom and cunning, he was an ordinary man without any special strength. In contrast, Thanatos was not just another lower deity, but the true-born son of Nyx, the goddess of the night. An ancient god, even older than the three great gods, Hades, and a respected elder deity of the underworld. Thanatos, the personification of death with his mighty grip, sneered at the foolish human. Step by step, Thanatos calmly entered the foolish human's bedroom. Thinking the moment was now, Sisyphus leaped out and swung his oak club. Thanatos, you've finally shown yourself. Take this. Whoosh! To the high senses of this divine being, the club was moving too slowly. Thanatos, who was about to sneer at the foolish human swinging a club at him, suddenly thought, wait a minute, if I let this fool hit me and pretend to be knocked out, I could take a break, couldn't I? He suddenly began to think in a different direction. Since his birth as the true-born son of Nyx, the god of death, Thanatos had never had a moment's rest. Death was always occurring in the mortal world, so he had to bring in souls every day. Right now, he was here in his true form, not an avatar. If he let this fool hit him and pretended to be knocked out, he could rest. But then he hesitated, wondering if it would really be possible to take a break from his duties. If he were negligent in his duty to collect souls, the burden would fall on the gods of the underworld who suffered alongside him. Sigh, if I rest, who will do the work? As an elder god of the underworld, I must set an example. In his mind, images of the many fellow gods who endured their duties with him flashed by. No matter how hard his work was, other gods also. Tut-tut, Thanatos. Working hard to collect souls again today, huh? He, First, there was Hypnos, who pretended to help him a little before the great flood that wiped out humanity, but then mocked him when the flood began. We're lucky we're not Thanatos. Aren't we Moros? Of course, Charis. Then there were Charis and Moros, who were also gods of death, but had lighter responsibilities compared to him, and thus led relatively easier lives. Lord Thanatos, we're always grateful to you. If I had been given the divine aspect of death. And finally, there was that wretch Morpheus, who would approach with a slick smile. Come to think of it, those damnable gods laughed at me. Glad they didn't have my burdensome job. Thanatos' face twisted into a grimace of anger. Then self-justification quickly followed. Since that man is a demigod, I can just say I let my guard down. If I take a little rest and then resume my duties, no one will blame me. Yes, just one day. Just one day off. Only one day. Oof. Ugh. Iktich. Huh. Before the club could even reach Thanatos' head, he collapsed to the ground, performing a highly unnatural act. Thus, the poor human Sisyphus, who suddenly gained infamy for supposedly defeating a god, stood frozen in place, still holding the club mid-swing. What just happened? Sisyphus, momentarily stunned, looked back and forth between his club and the fallen Thanatos. Finally, with a bewildered expression, he tied up Thanatos and locked him in the basement. However, King Sisyphus did not realize the consequences of this act. Imprisoning the true form of Thanatos, the personification of death itself, would affect the very laws of the world. And, starting the very next day, the Underworld, responsible for managing the souls of the dead, plunged into a crisis. Lately, Lady Styx has been avoiding me. It's probably because of the embarrassing scene I caused the other day. While she helps with the Underworld's affairs without issue, whenever our conversation drags on, I'll just go check on the river. Oh. She gradually turns red, starting from her ears, moving down to her neck, and then her face, before quietly slipping away. Have I tried to stop her? Of course I have. Lady Styx, could we talk for a moment? Caius. Oh. She dashed off as if she were a maiden fleeing from Zeus, so there was nothing I could do. But that's not the end of it. If I turn around, I'll spot Goddess Lethe with her dead eyes, staring at me from a distance. Hades. Lately, those vacant eyes have never felt so terrifying. It's as if she's silently blaming me, and I can't help but feel a stinging sensation on my skin. As I was blankly staring at a piece of parchment, feeling that something was off in our relationship, a soul urgently approached me. Hades, sir. Souls haven't been arriving in the Underworld for several days. Of course, this damned Underworld couldn't stay peaceful. I hurriedly called for a meeting in the Underworld. The other gods, having been informed of the situation, arrived quickly. Suddenly, a few days ago, souls stopped arriving in the Underworld. Lord Thanatos is nowhere to be seen. Thanatos, the personification of death itself. His job is to bring souls to the Underworld. But I sent him to Olympus because Zeus asked me to. Something about capturing some serious criminal. So I sent him to bring the soul to the Underworld for judgment. But he hasn't returned to the Underworld yet. The gods of the Underworld were clearly aware of the oddity and shared their concerns with serious expressions. Even Goddess Lethe and Goddess Styx had serious looks on their faces for once. Could he have encountered a giganes while capturing that criminal? Indeed, capturing Lord Thanatos would be the quickest way to disrupt the cycle of life and death. Could it be the work of a monster like Typhon? Considering the giganes that Cadmus saw near Thebes? Or that Gaia could have created a new monster after Typhon to attack Thanatos? Though Lord Thanatos is a powerful deity, he's not invincible. There's a possibility he could have been overpowered or captured by monsters. For now, let's contact Olympus and sort out the situation on Earth. Without Thanatos overseeing death, the other gods had no choice but to work harder. The situation on Earth was utter chaos. Ark, a dead chicken is moving. I cut off a cow's head, but the body is still alive. Damn it, why won't this thing die? And you, how are you still alive with a sword stuck in your head? For now, the gods Moros and Charis, who oversee death, would have to work as hard as they could to harvest souls. For the living who should have died, the god Hypnos would have to plunge them into a deep sleep to buy some time. The only option was to contact Olympus and inquire about Thanatos' whereabouts. Damn it, what's with all this trouble because of Thanatos? Could he be resting somewhere, tired from all his work? No way. Have you ever seen Thanatos take a break for even a few days? Come to think of it, not even once. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Meanwhile, on Olympus was no less in a state of emergency than the Underworld. As the beings on Earth were no longer dying, many gods expressed their grievances to Zeus, the king of the gods. Father, people aren't dying on the battlefield. If this goes on, it will disrupt the natural cycle of life. Lord Hades of the Underworld has strongly protested. He's asking about Lord Thanatos' whereabouts. Wait, Thanatos went to capture some demigod, didn't he? But even the mighty Zeus couldn't fully grasp the situation. Athena, whom he often consulted, had left for some errands and wasn't present at the meeting. How could a mere mortal possibly defeat Thanatos? To Zeus, Sisyphus seemed nothing more than a clever trickster, with no special powers to speak of. The god Pan, who was known for his instincts, made a suggestion that filled Zeus with certainty. Lord Zeus, could it be that Thanatos was ambushed by a monster, perhaps a creature like Typhon or a Gigantes? There's some truth to that. He must have encountered something while trying to capture Sisyphus. Convinced of the reasoning, Zeus immediately summoned Ares. The god of war would surely have no trouble against a creature capable of defeating Thanatos. Ares, the time has come to show the same valor you displayed when you swung your sword to save me last time. Oh, you've heard of my exploits, father. Indeed, Thanatos must have been ambushed by a monster while pursuing that contemptible human. Go rescue Thanatos and deliver death to that mortal. Understood? You can count on me. Ares grinned viciously, his fighting spirit rekindled. If something could defeat Thanatos, it had to be a descendant of Typhon or a Gigantes. He remembered the thrilling war against Typhon as he donned his armor. He drew the fine sword that Hephaestus had crafted for him after the last rebellion. The monster that attacked Thanatos would surely meet its end at the hands of the god of war. Ares arrived in Corinth, driving his chariot with great confidence. He intended to investigate, since this was where the trail of Thanatos had gone cold. However, no matter how hard he searched, he found no trace of Thanatos being dragged away by a monster. Sensing something was off, Ares decided to enter the palace of Sisyphus, the human Zeus had mentioned. His plan was to interrogate the human who was originally Thanatos' target and demand to know if he had seen the god with the black wings. Since the man was a king, perhaps he might also have some clues about any monster that might have appeared nearby. Intruder! Spear him! Who are you? This is the royal palace. Ares casually glanced at the soldiers of Corinth who surrounded him. None were equipped with special weapons. There were no gods or heroes present, and certainly no monsters that could pose a threat to him. Nothing to worry about at all. The god of war simply ignored everything and continued deeper into the palace. The poor soldiers tried to jab at him with their spears and swords, but they couldn't harm a god, especially not one of the 12 Olympians. Art, stop him. And no, my spear broke. Swords don't work either. Run away. The humans screamed and shouted, but he paid no attention as he searched for Sisyphus. Deeper into the palace, as he descended further, there, wearing lavish clothing and a crown, was a man swinging a club, trying to ambush him. The man, who appeared to be a demigod, swung his wooden club and shouted something. So, Zeus sent you to kill me, but this club made of oak will. At that moment, Ares, who had reached deep into the palace, sensed something strange. Ignoring the club swinging at his head, he extended his divine power to sharpen his senses. From below, deep underground, he could feel a certain power, one that unmistakably belonged to death. Crack! Thud! What? I hit him on the head, but the club broke? This human, guilty of his crimes, no longer mattered. If Thanatos, who was likely somewhere underground, started moving, Sisyphus would soon be captured and taken to the underworld. Ares rushed forward and flung open the door leading to the basement. Why could he feel Thanatos' power from underground? Had he been injured by a monster? Snore, snort. As Ares descended into the basement, what he saw was the old god with black wings was lying spread-eagle, sound asleep, casually breaking free from his bindings. Clearly in a deep and peaceful sleep, Thanatos snored softly, scratching his belly with one hand. As he woke up, he met eyes with Ares, who had an expression of utter disbelief. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Ares might have been violent and simple-minded, but that was because his divine aspect represented brutal war. He wasn't actually stupid. Sure, Athena fooled him often, but that was only because she was the goddess of wisdom. As Ares' memory jogged, he began recalling the time during the Great Flood when he was tricked by Athena and forced to work in the underworld. Damn it, why are there so many cursed souls? Huff, is that you, Ares? Help me get these souls in line. My poor feathers, they keep falling out. Is this what they call baldness? Or rather, balding of wings? Thanatos had dispatched countless incarnations of himself to the mortal world, working tirelessly day and night. He was so busy that it seemed like there wasn't a busier god in the entire world, let alone the underworld. And he worked without rest, struggling with the heavy burden of his duties. If Ares had been in Thanatos' shoes, he would have desperately needed a break. As Ares' suspicions grew, the evidence began to pile up. 1. Thanatos had broken free from his bindings and was sleeping, snoring. 2. He wasn't under the influence of an external force like Hypnos' power, but was simply resting. 3. There were no signs of a monster capable of defeating Thanatos nearby. 4. The power emanating from Thanatos' body was unchanged. He didn't appear weakened in the slightest. As Thanatos noticed Ares' face gradually contorting with anger, he spoke with a voice thick with sleep. Ares, you've come to rescue me after I got caught off guard by that human. Sigh. Please wipe the drool from your mouth and stop lying, Thanatos. Ares quietly pressed his hand against his forehead. As soon as Ares met eyes with the awakened Thanatos, he immediately rushed to the underworld and reported everything to Hades. Uncle Hades, you won't believe what Thanatos has been doing. Ares, who had hoped to witness a fierce battle between Thanatos and a powerful monster, was now sulking like a child whose toy had been taken away. Upon realizing the full extent of the situation, the gods of the underworld were furious. What? So this whole situation was because... Who the hell is this Sisyphus human? Damn it. You're telling me Thanatos was sleeping all this time? Ares, are you sure you're not lying? I swear by the river Styx that everything I, Ares, said is true. Thus, some of the gods in the underworld ambushed Thanatos as he was bringing Sisyphus back, tying him up at the entrance to the underworld. Ugh! Hypnos, what are you doing? And you too, Styx. Do you have any idea how much we've suffered while you were neglecting your duties and sleeping? Ares even said you were snoring. Thanatos was bound and dragged away like a criminal under the strict watch of the two gods. Of course, Sisyphus, utterly dazed by this unprecedented situation, walked along in a stupor. No! The only one welcoming Thanatos, who had neglected his duties for a while, was the ferryman of the Acheron River, Charon. Ugh, I was just enjoying a short rest, and now I have to row again. And so, Thanatos and Sisyphus were dragged before me, Hades. Thanatos, bound tightly with ropes by the enraged gods, stood there defiantly, while Sisyphus, dazed, knelt with a blank expression. What? Just because I took a nap for a few days, you're doing this to me? I only meant to sleep for a day. Thanatos shouted boldly next to the completely out-of-it Sisyphus. My head aches, as if I'm Zeus swallowing Métis. You must have found harvesting souls rather exhausting. Thanatos. Exactly. Hades, you understand my hardships well. I really only meant to take a brief nap. At that, the other god standing beside me immediately exploded in anger. First, Hypnos, who had been traveling around the world forcibly putting to sleep those who couldn't die. What? A brief nap? You say? Where do you get off saying such nonsense? Thanatos, then Moros and Charis, who had also been suffering as they traveled the world because their domains overlapped with death. Thanatos, do you even realize what you're saying? You disrupted the cycle of the world for several days, and now you say that. Morpheus, who had been appearing in human dreams night after night to suggest that lives not be taken for a while, added, Lord Hades, Thanatos must have conspired with the god of time, Kronos. Otherwise, how could he think that time passed so quickly? Many other gods and officials condemned Thanatos' actions as well. By now, no one was paying any attention to Sisyphus, who had already been condemned as a major criminal by Zeus. You vile wretches, if you all had to do my job, you wouldn't think this was such a big deal. What? I'm busy every day distributing sleep to the living. I'm constantly dispatching my clones to make people dream. Do you know how exhausting that is? Do you think we don't work hard? Don't tell me you think you're the only one working in the underworld. That's right. All the gods in the underworld are constantly working to death. Even I, the supreme ruler, only occasionally get some free time. Of course, Thanatos and Charon are the busiest, but that doesn't mean the other gods are lounging around. Take Morpheus and Hypnos, for example. As soon as night falls, they have to work tirelessly, controlling their clones. In such a situation, Thanatos' neglect of his duties for several days meant that the other gods in the underworld had to handle dozens of times their usual workload. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I waved my hand to quiet everyone down and then spoke. Since we had to decide on a punishment for Thanatos, who had neglected his duties by using Sisyphus. First, we need to decide on a punishment. Tartarus! Hypnos shouted, his voice strained from lack of sleep. He is the god who gives out sleep, yet he hadn't slept a wink for several days. Sending him straight to Tartarus wouldn't be a bad idea. Indeed, the crime of disrupting the cycle is serious. Hades, you should pass a fair judgment. Moros and Charis, their eyes shadowed with exhaustion, added. They have been forced to live practically among the living for days while harvesting souls. Since sending him to Tartarus alone might be too light a punishment, how about making him continuously push a boulder up a hill? Morpheus, that's a great idea. As expected of the god of dreams, your imagination is very creative. Tartarus, to Tartarus. Morpheus, with wild eyes, spouted his crazy suggestion. It seemed he harbored a strong resentment against Thanatos for not having taken a break. You lunatics, do you think you wouldn't rest if you were in my position? I'd rather not take a nap at the first chance I got. Thanatos, stop making excuses and accept your punishment. To Tartarus with Thanatos. I massaged my temples as it seemed the underworld was turning into a madhouse, and then I quietly muttered. I infused my voice with divine power so that all the gods could hear. So, if we send Thanatos to Tartarus, who will harvest the souls? It's quiet now. The gods fell silent as they realized they hadn't thought that far ahead. Everyone began to glance at each other nervously. Well, isn't death just like a deep sleep? Hypnos, you could... Charis, maybe your domain over disastrous death might be more suitable. We should think this through more. Just as I expected, everyone seemed to be avoiding any additional work. Now I can finally speak my mind. Thanatos cannot be sent to Tartarus. If a deity has a complaint, they'll take it as a sign that he's shirking his duty to harvest souls instead. Ahem. Well, lucky you, Thanatos. No other choice, I suppose. For someone who has committed a wrong to go unpunished, the goddess of justice, Dike, would weep. Instead, the god Thanatos will be sentenced to a few extra days of hard labor. In addition, he will not receive any offerings from humans for a while, considering Thanatos is the busiest in the underworld, along with the old god's dignity that has existed since the beginning of time. Some random additional punishments should suffice. Thanatos' face scrunched up as he untied the rope binding him and slowly stood up. It seemed he had realized there would be no more vacations for him. And since there's something I haven't been able to take care of for you all, I will regularly request support from Olympus. But Hades, what are you going to do about that human? The goddess Styx, who had been frowning silently, pointed at Sisyphus. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I looked at Sisyphus, the human Zeus had sent Thanatos to capture. His forehead was drenched in sweat, and he looked half out of his mind. Let's see. Your crimes are? Ah, don't be so afraid. There's a petition on your behalf. I reached out and picked up the parchment scroll handed to me by Iris, the goddess of the rainbow. A while ago, the river god Asopus had asked me to deliver this petition to the underworld. I handed the parchment scroll to Minos, one of the 3 judges of the underworld who was standing beside me. He slowly examined it and began to read aloud. Then I shall read it. To the Lord of the underworld, upon hearing that the human Sisyphus has been captured, the content of the document the river god sent me. It detailed how his daughter, Aegina, had been wronged by Zeus and expressed his gratitude to Sisyphus. It also contained worries about Sisyphus being retaliated against by Zeus. Therefore, I humbly plead for some leniency and mercy towards him. As Minos finished reading the petition, the faces of the nearby gods turned pale. Sigh. Zeus again? This time, was the river god the one who suffered? What if it's a lie? Shouldn't we ask the goddess Mnemosyne to verify it? I nodded, and soon the goddess of memory read Sisyphus's memories and relayed them to me. Then I will render judgment. Sisyphus looked up at me with a face showing a glimmer of hope. Your crime of ambushing Thanatos, the god of death, and disrupting the cycle of the world is indeed a grave offense. But, however, the reason Thanatos came for you earlier than your destined time was not your fault. To be precise, it was because Zeus, angered after his assault was discovered, sent Thanatos. Still, it's not like Sisyphus is entirely blameless. From what I found out, he planned to stir up sympathy by claiming that his wife didn't hold a funeral. But the goddess of memory, Mnemosyne, examined his thoughts and informed me. It's never easy for a human to deceive a god. Trying to invoke my sympathy by using the funeral was indeed wrong. But you are well regarded among the people of Corinth, and are even called a virtuous ruler. Moreover, the real grave offense is... Ahem. I glanced sideways at the god who was shamelessly holding his head up high. When Thanatos, who had recently returned from a restful few days in the mortal realm, met my gaze, he coughed awkwardly and looked away. Originally, Thanatos had no intention of using you, and if you had been dragged to the underworld, Minos here would have ruled you innocent. If that's true, Minos, standing beside me, offered an awkward smile and added, well, when it comes to matters involving Lord Zeus, it's a bit ahem, but I ignored him for now. Therefore, I will judge your sins when you return to the underworld after living out your natural lifespan. Thank you, Lord Pluto. Sisyphus, his face showing relief, prostrated himself and repeatedly thanked me, though he'll forget everything he experienced in the underworld. I nodded to Lethe, the goddess of forgetfulness, and she approached Sisyphus from behind. Her power of oblivion began to manifest. Sisyphus would forget all the memories of what happened in the underworld. Huh? Oh, by the way, when you return, I will also hold you accountable for imprisoning Thanatos, who collapsed on his own. I finished speaking as I watched Sisyphus's eyes become clouded and his memories fade. It's true that Thanatos had deliberately tried to use Sisyphus, but he must still be punished for keeping him tied up in the palace basement. When Sisyphus arrives in the underworld after his lifespan is over, he might spend tens or hundreds of years working in the outer reaches of the underworld with Phaethon. Morpheus sent a messenger to Olympus to summon Iris to the underworld. Yes? Why call for Iris, the goddess of the rainbow? What? Is there a serious criminal and you want to send Thanatos? I'm going to personally complain to Zeus. What nonsense. Not long after the messenger was sent, Iris soon arrived. What brings you to call for me, Lord Hades? Open the path to Olympus. Understood? 7 bands of light began to stream from Iris's fingertips. Soon, a beautiful rainbow appeared, opening a passage connecting space to space. Calling for Iris is definitely convenient when it comes to long-distance travel. Sure. As I crossed the passage, the space twisted, and the cloud-covered Olympus emerged. Let's see, where is Zeus? Oh, Uncle Hades? Apollo. My nephew, Apollo, with his dazzling golden hair and eyes that shone like sunlight, was nearby. Today, too, he was holding his lyre and heading somewhere. What brings you to Olympus today? That's none of your concern. Where is Zeus? Oh, Father is probably over there in the banquet hall. Oh, a banquet. After all the fuss about serious crimes and whatnot, I dispatched Thanatos only to find out it was a false charge. And now, after causing all that trouble with his act of rape, he doesn't even consider the consequences and is having a banquet? As I entered the banquet hall, I saw all sorts of gods. They were drinking nectar and ambrosia, playing just like they always do at banquets. Huh? Lord Hades? You don't seem to be in a good mood today. What brings you to Olympus after such a long time? And there he was, the king of the gods, comfortably seated on a golden throne. Thanatos was sleeping? That's not like him. You must have seen it wrong. It's true, Father. He was lying there so comfortably. Zeus looked bewildered, listening to Ares, who had just returned from the underworld. His face was full of disbelief. Step. As I walked straight toward Zeus, he looked surprised to see me. Oh, Brother Hades, what brings you to Olympus? Everything Ares said is true. What? Then Thanatos really disobeyed my order. A vein popped on Zeus's forehead, but I wasn't done speaking yet. And that human you ordered Thanatos to take to the underworld. You mean Sisyphus? What exactly did he do wrong for the king of the gods to personally summon Thanatos to send him to the underworld? Zeus seemed to catch on to something and let out an awkward laugh. Yes, as you know, in our underworld, there is Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. As Hades says, what exactly did Sisyphus do wrong for Zeus to do such a thing? Hera, who had been eating ambrosia nearby, approached. Her face was full of curiosity, knowing nothing about the situation. You have the right to know too, so I should inform you clearly. Well, Zeus raped. Brother, wait. Just a moment. Shuh. You stay quiet. So, Zeus did what? Zeus tried to divert the conversation in a panic, but it was no use. Hera had sensed something odd and quieted Zeus. You understand why I'm bringing this up now, don't you? It's time you paid for your misdeeds, Zeus. Hera, you know Asopus, the river god, right? I've heard of him. Zeus raped his daughter, and the human who told Asopus about it was Sisyphus. Zeus tried to sneak away from his seat, but was caught by Hera. So, in conclusion, Zeus tried to kill the human who exposed his rape. That's right. Hera gave Zeus a sharp glare before turning her gaze back to me. You're not lying, are you? I confirmed it with the help of Mnemosyne. I swear by the river Styx that all of this is true. Say, Zeus. Hera's face instantly turned demonic. She, the queen of the gods, is the goddess of marriage and family. Naturally, rape or infidelity is absolute evil in her eyes. And yet again, you assault another goddess and expect me to stand by. Should the god of death, Thanatos, now be punished for exposing your rape? Zeus couldn't say a word, breaking out in a cold sweat. Oh, look at him avoiding eye contact. No, brother, that. Thanatos should respect the authority of the king of the gods. Authority? Does even a god of rape have authority just because he forces himself on anyone who catches his eye? Zeus's complexion grew even paler. Well, of course, since Hera was glaring at him with a menacing look, talking nonstop. You're always like this. Whether it's Leto, Europa, or any human woman, the moment you see a pretty face, you lose your mind and charge at them. It's hard to tell if you're the king of the gods or the king of infidelity. Should I start counting how many times you flirted with Iris today? And now you rape the daughter of a river god? And then try to send the human who exposed your crime to the underworld? If there's even one false word in what I said, go ahead and refute it. I was wrong. So, you admit your fault with your own mouth. Then pay me compensation. Co-compensation? Because of you, the underworld's workload has been overwhelming for several days. I'm going to borrow some of the gods from Olympus for a while. Zeus darted his eyes around, clearly calculating something. Then he slowly opened his mouth. Machem, of course. Take whoever you want, brother. And stop recklessly bossing around busy gods, especially for pointless tasks like this. I was tempted to cut off a certain part of his body with my Xiphos if he had refused, but T/N. Xiphos is a short sword used by ancient Greek soldiers. Still, he is the king of the gods, and since he's being harassed by Hera, I'll let it go this time. Zeus! I'm not done talking. Well, this matter. The other reason I came up here was to take some of the gods to the Underworld. Rather than arguing more with Zeus, I need to hurry back to the Underworld and get back to work. Now, let's see. Who should I take with me to work? Athena, who's experienced with underworld duties? Or Ares, who's good at leading souls? My gaze shifted to the side. Ares, who had been absent-mindedly listening to the conversation, met my eyes and quickly waved his hands. Gasp! Uncle Hades, I think it would be better if you took Athena instead. You're excused, since you were the one who promptly reported Thanatos' actions to the Underworld. Leaving Zeus, who was listening to Hera's endless nagging to the point where ichor was practically flowing from his ears, I glanced around the banquet hall. Now, is there any god who would be a perfect fit for the Underworld? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Gods possess senses far superior to those of humans. Unless blocked by divine power, conversations held at a distance are clearly audible to them. So, has Lord Zeus assaulted someone again? No, father. And this time, Asopus' daughter was the victim. Naturally, Zeus's infamy grew even greater. The virgin goddesses sighed, and the married goddesses shuddered. Should I just swear my virginity to the river Styx? Or maybe like the goddess Athena? So, it's true that Lord Zeus has taken on the roles of both the god of rape and adultery. Among them, there was one goddess who had a different reaction. Oh my, Lord Zeus hasn't visited me. She was the embodiment of beauty itself. Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love. As she slightly raised the corners of her mouth in a smile, Ares' expression softened, and his eyes became dazed. He'll probably end up getting seriously injured by Hephaestus later. Tfeteske. Aphrodite lightly walked on the clouds and approached me as I was scanning the gods. Oh no, not that headache-inducing girdle again. Hades, seeing you here on Olympus must mean you wanted to see me again? Go to your husband. The goddess of love slightly furrowed her beautiful brow. But even that transformed into an expression of beauty, and she smiled at me. Huh? How long do you plan to keep playing hard to get? Aphrodite, don't trouble Hades too much. Oh, Lady Hestia? Hestia, who had been quietly tending the hearth in a corner of the banquet hall, approached and spoke. Lady Hestia, didn't you swear an oath to the river Styx to keep your virginity? And what does that have to do with this? When someone tries to stifle free love between men and women, there's only one reason I can think of. Aphrodite circled around behind Hestia, who was relatively short, and whispered, Is that sly look a characteristic of the goddess of love? Hades and I are not like that. Come on, you can tell me. You can trust the goddess of love with your secrets. Wait a minute. Could Aphrodite's charm be useful for managing the souls in the underworld? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Aphrodite. Yes, speak, Hades. Would you be interested in coming to the underworld for a bit? Aphrodite smiled brightly and said to me, so that's your preference. You should have told me sooner. Spending time in a quiet and private place isn't so bad. So, are you interested? Of course. Her smile carried such enchanting divine power that it gave me a headache, but I smiled too. If I'm this affected, the souls in the underworld won't stand a chance. Anyway, as the goddess of beauty and love, you don't have much else to do on Olympus, right? Of course. I could spend a hot night. No, several hot days and nights with you. Hestia, who had been watching us, began to tremble and made a resolute expression. It's not what you think. Hades. You can't. You have Lethe and Styx. They're goddesses who haven't even married Hades yet. What's wrong if I have some fun first? Fun, that's a good word. If you come to the underworld, everyone's work will be a bit more enjoyable. Charon, the ferryman, and the minor gods will especially love it. As Aphrodite and I exchanged expectant smiles, a loud noise was heard from the outskirts of Olympus. Boom, 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 boom. The sound coming from the outskirts of Olympus grew louder and louder. If the noise could be heard even in the divine palace above the clouds, it must be something more than just what's happening on the ground. Could it be Hephaestus hammering at full force that's making this noise? The other gods were beginning to show signs of unease. Is someone approaching Olympus? But this kind of noise. Ah! Everyone look over there. An unnamed minor god pointed to somewhere on the ground. There, two gigantic giants were piling up mountains and filling the sea to create a path towards Olympus. The booming noise was the result of these giants throwing massive rocks and heaps of earth. Who dares approach Olympus? Those giants don't seem to be gods, so Lord Zeus will handle them, right? There's no need for Lord Zeus to step in. I can just wait. A prophecy. There was a prophecy. As the gods were muttering ominous things about the impudent giants who dared ascend to Olympus, someone mentioned the prophecy. Hermes flew over in a hurry, his winged sandals flapping. There's a prophecy that says no god or human can kill those two brothers. What? Then are we just supposed to stand by and watch? Who exactly are those two? They can't be killed, huh? I suppose we should at least hear what they have to say now that they've come all the way up here. Though it doesn't seem like they have any good intentions, there's something strangely familiar about their power. Olympus never has a day of peace. Maybe the quiet underworld isn't so bad after all, compared to all the chaos here. Those were the words of Hestia and Aphrodite, in that order. Aphrodite merely gave me a coy smile, showing she wasn't really interested. Well, being one of the 12 Olympians, before I knew it, the source of all the noise had revealed themselves in Olympus. Two gigantic giants. Their faces looked no older than early teens, but their bodies were enormous, like a bizarre fusion of dozens of humans. Oh, so this is Olympus? Where's Hera, my future wife? Artemis, your husband is here. Are they insane? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. You're really pretty. Are you Hera? I'm not Lady Hera, and you're not really my type either. One of the giants pointed at Aphrodite and spoke. The goddess of beauty responded with practiced ease. Then where's Artemis? Her husband has arrived, and she's not even showing herself. Maybe if we break some things in Olympus, she'll come out. Are they really insane? Judging by the looks on their faces, many of the Olympian gods shared my thoughts, and someone took action immediately. You crazy bastards. You think Olympus is your playground just because you look like brats? What's this little guy yapping about? Who are you? The one clad in armor and pointing a sword at the giants was the god of war. I am Ares. Since I can't kill you, I'll beat you until you wish you were dead. What do you think you can do with that toothpick? Silence. I'll show you the terror of war. Ares charged at them, but these giants look quite strong. They seem to be at the top tier among the 12 Olympians. Thud, clang. Gah! Ares, who had charged with great momentum, had his sword shattered and was sent flying. In war, death is inevitable, but with the prophecy that gods cannot kill them, Ares' defeat was to be expected. Ow, that stung a little, but it's still just a toothpick. Of course, it's also true that they possess great power. Giants who cannot be killed by gods or humans, and whose basic strength is on par with the top tier of the 12 Olympians. Whose lineage are you from? What are your names? At my question, their eyes turned towards me. I am Otus, the one who will become Artemis' husband. I am Ephialtes. We are from Thessaly. Thessaly? Giants this strong came from a human kingdom? They definitely seem to have some divine blood in them. Thessaly, what are these creatures? Claiming Hera as their wife. What madness is this? The gods murmured among themselves. Perhaps they thought these two might actually succeed in taking Hera and Artemis, backed by their prophecy of invincibility and immense strength. Let go of me, you brute. You stay there. You're too noisy. You're going to trap me here? When Otus and Ephialtes teamed up to grab Ares and toss him into a giant bronze jar, the gods' agitation grew even more intense. They're not Typhon, so there's no need to panic this much. What on earth is going on with Olympus? Hades, did you cast some kind of curse? What nonsense are you spouting now? Demeter displayed her disdain for the underworld with a bored expression. It seemed like just a joke, but it was true that recently all sorts of strange things have been happening in Olympus. Prophecies often have loopholes. Hades, this should be an easy task for you, right? Aphrodite approached me, purring flirtatiously. Though it was a bit annoying, she's a valuable asset for labor in the underworld, so I'll tolerate it for now. Many of the gods were flustered, but the 12 Olympians remained mostly calm. Even Ares, just before being thrown into the bronze jar, merely glanced my way with a look of disbelief. He'll probably break out of that jar soon enough. Trapping the god of war in a mere giant bronze jar, it's clear they're full of a need to flaunt their power. They're among the most powerful by Olympus standards. Yet even with their immense strength, they still suffered a wound from Ares' sword. These young giants have no battle experience, and while they can't be killed, the prophecy says nothing about subduing them. On the other hand, the gods here are veterans of wars against the Titans, the Gigantes, and Typhon. Not to mention, both Zeus and I were present. Ha! Hurry and bring Hera and Artemis. If you don't want to end up like the guy we just tossed in a jar, move it. Their loud voices are giving me a headache. I might as well step in and subdue them myself. Maybe I'll toss them into a cell in the underworld where they can't grow any stronger. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Among the two giant brothers, Otus had ambitions. He wanted to ascend to Olympus, defeat all the gods, and make the beautiful goddess of the hunt his wife. Otus, then I'll take Hera as my wife. With our combined strength, the gods are no match for us. And with the support of his twin brother, Ephialtes, who possessed equal strength, it seemed easily possible. So they stacked Mount Ossa on top of Mount Pelion to create a path to Olympus. And finally, they succeeded in setting foot above the clouds. Let go of me, you brute! You stay there. You're too noisy. Otus trapped the impudent young god who had attacked him in a jar, and, imagining the beautiful Artemis who would soon be his wife, shouted, "Ha! Hurry and bring Hera and Artemis." At that moment, one of the male gods who had questioned them earlier quietly stood up. The gloomy-looking god let out a deep sigh. The lord of the underworld himself stepping in. Are those brats headed for Tartarus? What sort of fools are causing havoc in Olympus? Hey, you giants, it would be wise to start apologizing now. As he slowly rose from his seat, the panicked gods began to regain their composure. Who is this guy? Even Ephialtes, Otus' twin, seemed curious as he asked for the man's identity. Who are you? The black-haired god rose, looking rather annoyed, and made a casual gesture into the air. With that, a weapon with two prongs at the end, a bident appeared. But do they really think they can take us on with something as puny as that? Otus sneered and raised his massive fist. As he approached, the black-haired god merely stared at them with an indifferent expression, making no move to respond. No matter who you are, you won't survive a punch from me. As Otus' iron-like fist cut through the air, a terrifying shockwave reverberated. But it was just a shockwave. His punch, aimed with precision, hit nothing, and then came the burning pain from his wrist. Otus, when did he dodge my punch? I didn't even see him move. How did he drive this into my wrist? Dark energy began to slowly emanate from his body, his face still full of boredom. Though it was broad daylight, and we were in Olympus, closer to the sun than the mortal world, the surroundings began to darken. Otus, who had prided himself on his immense strength, felt fear for the first time. This was nothing like the guy who charged at us earlier. Ares, could this be Zeus? You appear to have divine blood. Does your father not care at all for his children? No. Odo Ags. Ephialtes, who noticed his brother's wrist had been pierced, rushed over in a frenzy. But in an instant, he was stabbed by the bident, collapsing as blood poured from his ankle. First, you're headed to prison. The sharp, two-pronged bident moved closer to Otus' eye. Too fast. I can't react. My body, it won't move. Wait. Please wait, brother Hades. Zeus. A voice called out, and the bident stopped just short of Otus' eye. Ahem, ahem. We have esteemed guests here in Olympus. We must treat them well. Thanks to the stern-looking blonde god intervening, Otus was spared from losing his sight. Zeus and Hades. Are these two part of the big three? The king of the gods, who had just stopped Hades from wielding his bident, looked over at Otus and Ephialtes with a faint smile. So, you're here to claim Hera and Artemis? Yet, for some reason, Otus found that smile chilling. It wasn't difficult to deal with the giants who introduced themselves as Otus and Ephialtes. I simply dodged the incoming punches and gave them a prick with my bident to calm them down. Otus. At this point, I drew upon a bit of divine power to intimidate them. The giant known as Otus froze, fear flickering in his eyes. They're quite strong, but it's clear they have no battle experience. First, you're headed to prison. I aimed my bident at the fallen giant's eye, but my real target was his ankle. With my right hand, I pretended to stab his eye with the bident, while with my left hand, I quietly drew the stick sword from my waist, ready to slash at Otus's ankle. Wait! Please wait, brother Hades! Zeus! Suddenly, I heard Zeus calling my name from across the banquet hall, having returned unnoticed. Judging by the ichor flowing from his head, it seemed Hera had yanked out some of his hair after sensing the tension. Zeus looked rather ridiculous as he clumsily tried to reattach his hair. But the smile on his face was anything but funny. Seeing that Zeus had something in mind, I withdrew my bident and stepped back. After all, these giants could easily be subdued again at any time. Ugh! As I stepped back, the two giants slowly got to their feet. But their eyes, now filled with fear, and their trembling fingers betrayed their feelings. Zeus glanced at the bleeding giants, a sharp smile forming on his lips as he spoke. Since you are esteemed guests in Olympus, we must treat you well. This was the sincerity Zeus often displayed towards those who challenged his power. So, you've come to claim Hera and Artemis? There was a cold malice in that smile and in the calmness of his eyes. But the brothers, Otus and Ephialtes, failed to notice it. They were young, strong, but inexperienced fools. That's why they couldn't understand why the other gods weren't objecting to Zeus's drastic proposal. That's right, Lord Zeus. We swore by the river Styx to take Artemis and Hera as our wives. Hurry up and hand them over to us. They both looked foolish, though the one I attacked earlier, Otus, had a bit more awareness. Not that it mattered. How could he still be talking like that after getting stabbed by my spear? I was about to drag Otus and Ephialtes off to the Underworld's prison. As the prophecies said, they couldn't be killed, and I sensed a familiar divine power in them. Zeus must know this, yet he stopped me, not out of mercy, but to utterly destroy those who dared to challenge him in Olympus. Of course, for heroes as mighty as yourselves, Hera and Artemis are not undeserving. Really? But, Lord Hades, it seems there was a misunderstanding with my brother Hades. It's all to ensure they meet their end. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I'd love to hand over Hera and Artemis to you right away. But, they're not here. The giants grew furious upon hearing that the two goddesses they had chosen as their wives weren't present. Zeus must have hidden them somewhere or told them to lay low for a while. What? Lord Zeus, were you deceiving us? Ephialtes shouted, his face contorted with anger. But Zeus calmly soothed him with a soft voice. Artemis is on Naxos Island dealing with some important matters, so she isn't here. What important matters? She's hunting down a giganes, a powerful monster with the lower body of a snake and the upper body of a human. You'd have a hard time dealing with them. Indeed, Artemis was not present at the banquet, so perhaps traces of the giganes really had been found on Naxos Island. But since she hasn't returned yet, it seems she's been captured by those monsters. It would be great if some brave heroes could step in. Artemis has been captured? Then, Lord Zeus, if we kill those giganes and rescue Artemis. If you can do that, I'll allow you to hold a joint wedding here in Olympus. So that's Zeus's plan. There are too many flaws in Zeus's story. His tone is subtly encouraging them. The condition that they must kill the monsters to be allowed to marry. The vague answer about Hera's whereabouts. Yet, the two giant brothers noticed nothing amiss. Their youth and inexperience made them oblivious. Phaethon, the goddess of persuasion, subtly exerted her influence right beside Zeus. The king of the gods spoke carelessly, yet his words, full of holes, strangely muddled the minds of the giants. Then hurry up and depart. If you're any later, Artemis might fall at the hands of the Gigantes. All right, you better keep your promise, Lord Zeus. Where is this place called Naxos? And so, the two fools fell for Zeus's words and descended from Olympus. They would have been better off if they had been subdued and thrown into the Underworld's prison earlier. As if there was no longer any need to hide it. Zeus, who had been watching the giants descend from Olympus with a cold gaze, opened his mouth. When the king of the gods relaxed his expression and raised a cup filled with nectar, all eyes were on him. Though some ruffians appeared for a moment, I'll handle them myself, so all gods should continue to enjoy the feast without worry. Oh, understood. The outcome for those who challenge Olympus is always obvious. Naxos Island, is it? That will be their grave. Their last stroke of luck was being subdued by Lord Hades earlier. Ha! There's so much room for error in prophecies. Tsk. As Zeus finished speaking, the soft sound of Apollo's lyre resumed. The 9 muses displayed their artistic talents, and Dionysus made wine to share with the gods. Oh, so this is the wine I've heard about. Thank you, Lord Dionysus. Now, the gods of Olympus tilted their cups and began to eat ambrosia as if nothing had happened. And Ares, who had easily broken a bronze jar, grumbled about having shattered a precious vessel. I headed straight for Zeus. Zeus was a giganes found on Naxos Islands? Ah, brother, it seems you don't know yet. Helios discovered traces of them while driving his sun chariot a while ago. The giganes are monsters created by the earth goddess Gaia. They become stronger and gain tremendous regenerative power when their bodies touch the ground. So, these creatures, who must stay on land, were found on an island in the middle of the sea. This is clearly a trap set by Gaia. They're probably waiting for the reckless gods of Olympus to descend onto the island and search for the giganes. They infiltrated the island, deceived the sea creatures under Poseidon's command. We already knew the giganes were preparing traps to diminish our forces. His head shook from side to side in response to my question. He must have deliberately let the giganes pull their tricks on the island. Since he could sink or destroy the entire island at any time, he probably planned to see what kind of traps Gaia and the giganes were setting up. Although the giganes are a divine race, they aren't immortal and are more monstrous in nature. I can't be sure if they can be killed, but it doesn't matter if they don't die there. My son, Dionysus, is with us. You intend to drive them mad and make them kill each other? Heh, I can't let those who dare challenge me live. Yeah, it made sense that he stopped me from subduing them and dragging them to the Underworld. There was a way to use those strong but foolish giants, so of course he would have acted that way. I had already sensed something when he stopped me from subduing them, but I didn't bother opposing it. Trying to take by force a married goddess and a maiden who had sworn to the river Styx is clearly a direct challenge to Olympus. Since it was a contest of strength, not justice, they wouldn't receive a warm welcome in the Underworld if they ended up dead. By the way, which god's children do you think they are? The important thing is that they dared to challenge me, Zeus. They will die miserably there. Even if Dionysus fails to shake their minds with madness, Zeus would have other plans. He could send clouds transformed into beasts to provoke them into throwing spears at each other, or have Aphrodite bewitch them. It's a good way to check what traps the giganes have prepared while getting rid of a nuisance. Of course, but look at that, they're already walking towards Naxos Island. Dionysus, just in case, you should prepare as well. At times like this, Zeus makes wise decisions worthy of the king of the gods. But really, why does he always seem to think with his lower half when it comes to matters involving women? And so, Dionysus quietly descended to the island of Naxos. Zeus and I began to observe the situation below the clouds. Is this the island of Naxos? Artemis. I can't see anything. Naxos is an uninhabited island, devoid of humans. That's why it's possible that the Gigantes have laid traps here. The humans who offer us their worship are like our eyes. Gigantes, come out quickly. I'll slay you in one fell swoop. Ha! Crash! Crack! Two enormous giants who looked down on everything on the island roared and smashed the trees. They seemed overconfident, as if there were no monsters capable of challenging them. But the Gigantes are monsters created by our grandmother, Gaia, to overthrow Olympus. They should have a healthy amount of caution towards us, who even defeated Typhon. Where's Artemis? Monsters! The Ephialtes brothers have arrived. I would never be as careless as those fools. They must be lying in ambush somewhere, ready to activate traps with their powers. At that moment, the island of Naxos began to shake. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Is that a trap the Gigantes set? An earth power far surpassing that of Demeter. It seems Gaia herself created it. A thunderous noise echoed throughout Naxos as the ground cracked open. The island's topography was completely shattered, as if Poseidon had struck the earth with his trident. Boom! Crash! Ugh! What's this now? Is this the work of those Gigantes? Art, you cowardly scum! The giant brothers who called themselves the Ephialtes lost their balance and fell. Ephialtes, whom I had slashed in the ankle, rolled on the ground, clutching his head. No matter how formidable Gaia's trap, there's no way such powerful giants would be so easily defeated. There must be something more. Ugh! Ugh! What is this? A trap? Did Lord Zeus lie to us? From what I can see, there's poison, hallucinations, and the Earth's direct rejection of them with divine power. Lady Gaia has gone all out in setting this trap. Oh, I'm glad I didn't send Hermes to scout. Zeus looked down at Naxos with a serious expression. The trap seemed to be aimed at the 12 Olympian gods, leaving the giant brothers dazed. As the island was devastated by a massive earthquake, Gigantes began to emerge from the ground one after another. From the cracks in the earth, hideous monsters that were a mix of snake and human rushed at the giants. But one of the Gigantes, who appeared particularly large, shouted first. Could it be that the Gigantes now have a leader? Ha! As our mother said, we've caught a big one. I am Agrias, under the command of King Eurymedon. Die, dogs of Olympus! Attack! You bastards! You cowardly monsters who took Artemis! King Eurymedon? Does that mean these creatures have become strong enough to claim a king? And that commander-level creature is an unfamiliar face. Beside me, Zeus's expression hardened the moment the word king was mentioned. Since the human hero foretold by prophecy hasn't been born yet, it's wise to avoid a full-scale battle. But soon, the island of Naxos was engulfed in a brutal battle between giants and monsters. The Gigantes hurled boulders and swung trees. Which god are you? Ares? Apollo? Gah! You worm-like monsters! Hand over Artemis! Boom! Crash! In response, the giant brothers swung their muscular bodies wildly, hurling the Gigantes through the air. Gigantes caught in their brutal grip were smashed to pieces, but the brothers' bodies were also gradually being injured. Grr! Ephialtes! Let's escape from here and... Gah! Otus! First, they lost their balance due to the earthquake. Then they were weakened by poison and the power of the earth. Finally, hundreds of Gigantes, who had been lying in ambush beneath the island, launched a simultaneous attack. Even one of the strongest among the 12 Olympian gods can't defeat such a large number of Gigantes alone. The biggest problem is Lady Gaia's power. The earth itself is rejecting them. The Gigantes who introduced himself as Agrias under King Eurymedon jumped onto Otus's back and strangled him. Otus struggled, but eventually fell, and Ephialtes howled in despair. Indeed, it seems giants can be killed. Gigantes are closer to monsters than gods. Zeus stood up quietly and summoned his Gastrape. The intense power emanating from the blue lightning in his hand was destructive. Yet, this is one of the weaker bolts he possesses. Otus! Gah! We just need to kill this one. Crush him with your bodies. The remaining Gigantes, now reduced to a few dozen, threw boulders at Ephialtes after a fierce battle. They climbed on top of him, crushing him with their weight, and struck his ankles, bringing him down. And no, And so, the Eloti brothers who challenged Olympus met their deaths. Although they managed to slay hundreds of giganes, the end was rather anticlimactic given their strength. As the battle on the island of Naxos came to an end, Zeus stood up, holding his thunderbolt. He intended to massacre the exhausted giganes after their fight with the giant brothers. Now that it's over, let's clean up, throw it lightly, so it won't affect the sea too much. Crackle, rumble. Zeus's body, including his eyes, began to spark with lightning. The king of the gods, who rules the sky, lifted his arms slightly. Flash boom! A single thunderbolt struck down on the island of Naxos. But with that one strike, the entire island sank, and the giganes were wiped out. The island was completely torn apart. So many lives were surely lost. I'm not a god of prophecy, but I can already foresee Thanatos complaining to me about this again in the future. Zeus, I'll head back to the Underworld now. Come visit Olympus again next time, I hope it won't be for something like this again. I can see Aphrodite over there, drinking nectar and chatting with the goddesses. I should take her back to the Underworld. Hades! Our eyes met from across the nearly over party, and Aphrodite, who had been watching me, approached. Was she smiling because she was looking forward to working in the Underworld? She walked over and naturally stood in front of me. Let's go quickly. We have somewhere to be, right? Indeed. Aphrodite, her eyes filled with anticipation, followed me. But the murmurs around us sounded ominous. Gasp! Lord Hades again. During the Great Flood, I had to work in the Underworld. Poor goddess Aphrodite. I remember assigning that shivering goddess easy tasks when she was working in the Underworld. As I led the humming Aphrodite to the entrance of the Underworld, I noticed a shadow of Thanatos. Judging by the fact that he had tied up the souls of two giant figures with ropes, how could we be defeated by mere monsters? Release us! Gasp! Lord Hades? So Otus and Ephialtes, who were killed by the giganes, have come to the Underworld. I should tell Minos to use them for forced labor. They recognized me, standing with Aphrodite, and began to struggle. Release us, Lord Hades. Send us back to the living. But it's no use. Maybe when they were alive and under the protection of prophecy. But now that they're dead and mere souls, do they really think they can escape Thanatos' grasp? Thanatos' shadow roughly tossed the souls of the two giants, and they tumbled onto the ground. Still, they kept babbling nonsense about handing over Artemis and being sent back to the living. If this keeps up, it'll interfere with Charon's work. Aphrodite, can you put those fools out of their misery? Of course, that's easy. The goddess of beauty and love smiled sweetly. Soon, the lust-filled gaze of the goddess fell upon the giant souls. Let us out of here. That treacherous Zeus. He must have Artemis with... It's not the first time souls brought to the Underworld have caused a ruckus. But having the goddess of beauty and love subdue them will definitely improve everyone's work. Where should I assign this goddess? The Cocytus River, where souls hesitate because it's as cold as ice. Or the banks of the Charon River, where many troublemakers like these tend to gather. Perhaps the Phaethon River, where souls hesitate to cross because of their memories of the living. As I watched the goddess, who had her hand on her hip and her nose in the air, Charon spoke to me. The always tired ferryman of the Underworld grumbled. Sigh, these ones don't even have coins. Should I still ferry them? They are major sinners and must be judged. I'll pay the drachma for them. TSK. All right, get on, you lot. The two giant souls, now dazed, boarded Charon's boat one by one. First, the soul of Otus climbed aboard. Splash, sway. Was Charon's boat always this fragile? It was certainly built to remain steady, no matter how many souls boarded it. Why is this so heavy? Hey, you get on that side. Charon, seemingly having the same thought as me, tried to balance the boat by placing the two souls at opposite ends. Next, the soul of Ephialtes got on the boat. Crack, snap. Crack, crackle. The sound of Charon's boat splitting in half under the weight, or rather, shattering into pieces. Unlike humans, we gods possess lightning-fast reflexes, moving with incredible speed beyond imagination. Charon quickly shoved Otus and Ephialtes' souls aside and hurled himself toward the riverbank. The Acheron River is part of the Underworld's domain, so I controlled the river, pulling the sinking wreck of the boat back up. Thud, thud, huff, what the hell? The ferry that hadn't broken even once in thousands of years. This is why Otus and Ephialtes' souls didn't sink into the river. Old man Charon looked utterly dumbfounded, mouth agape. Aphrodite was also astonished, witnessing the destruction of Charon's ferry, something she had only heard about before. Wasn't that a divine artifact? I never thought it would completely shatter like this. Do you have any idea what happened? Did you make a mistake recently? No matter how heavy those two souls were, Charon's ferry is a divine object. Charon's powers reduce the weight of the souls, assist with movement across the river, and include various other functions. Under normal circumstances, no matter how many souls boarded, there would be no reason for it to break. It started creaking a little after that great flood, and now it's finally ended like this. Since the flood? If you had told me earlier, I could have taken action. How was I supposed to go all the way to the fortress when I'm so busy? Well, it's a miracle the boat even lasted this long, after working for such a long time. Even with divine powers, maybe it had been overworked for too long. Well, ever since the Underworld was created, countless souls have boarded that ferry. It was bound to break eventually. It's because mortals keep dying over trivial things. Charon muttered while staring at the wreckage of the ferry and his face filled with helplessness. Damn, what the hell is this? Hades. As you can see, Charon's ferry is in shambles. Thanatos, who had sent countless projections to guide souls in the mortal world, appeared. He must have come to complain about the chaos caused by the accumulation of souls at the Acheron River. The souls, unable to cross the Acheron, were growing increasingly agitated. Upon noticing us, the murmuring of the souls became even louder. What is going on here? Huh? Lord Pluto. No way. It looks just like the statues in the temple. Is that Lady Aphrodite? Why is Charon's ferry? Upon death, they had been guided by Thanatos down to the Underworld. But when they arrived, the ferry they were supposed to board was broken. Charon was standing there in shock with his oar, and they were met with Thanatos, myself, and Aphrodite. The souls began looking completely dazed. Oh, great Zeus! Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. We need to fix this quickly. If this keeps up, the cycle of the world might break again like last time. Aphrodite, charm all the souls arriving here and get them to stand in orderly lines. Huh? Oh yes. Thanatos, there should be a small boat near the river Styx used for rescuing souls. Go fetch it. Damn it. All right. When Thanatos returns with the boat, you'll be able to ferry the souls across the Acheron River. Right, Charon? I could, but the speed and durability of that boat won't compare to my ferry. Let's just do it for now. I'll get a new boat made and sent here as quickly as possible. Damn, something always seems to go wrong in this underworld. Hades, the souls suddenly stopped arriving. What in the world is going on? Lady Styx, Charon's ferry has been destroyed. The goddess Styx, shocked by the sudden halt in soul arrivals, rushed over. After quickly explaining the situation to her, she wore an expression similar to Thanatos. That can't be. That ferry hadn't even gotten a scratch in all those years. Well, after all those years, it was bound to break. Soon, Styx's servants, along with Thanatos' projections, began busying themselves by hauling the boat, while I hurried back to my office in the underworld to deal with the situation. Hades, could it be like last time with Thanatos? No, this time, it's because Charon's ferry broke, so get back to work. Why, yes. Oh, understood. And send word to Olympus that I urgently need to see Hephaestus. I should take this opportunity to remodel Charon's ferry. To ensure this kind of situation never happens again, I need to build it bigger and stronger. If the greatest blacksmith in the world, Hephaestus, who far surpasses even the Cyclopes, creates it himself. Nothing like this should ever happen again. But if there are others who can assist the god of blacksmiths, since we're going to make it, let's make it right. Summon Daedalus and Pygmalion. Stop by goddess Mnemosyne and restore their memories before bringing them. Yes, sir. No matter how tumultuous their lives were in the mortal world, everyone eventually comes to the underworld. Daedalus was the greatest architect and inventor of the era of King Minos, one of the judges of the underworld. And Pygmalion was a sculptor who fell in love with a statue he created. Remarkably, he even married the statue he fell in love with. This was because Aphrodite turned the statue Pygmalion created into a real person. So, Aphrodite turned the statue you made into a person? Yes, after I offered sacrifices and prayers, she answered my request. No wonder I saw a statue listed in the underworld's records. I was quite taken aback when the statue turned human arrived as a citizen of the underworld. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Thus, the greatest architect, sculptor, and blacksmith in Greece gathered in the fortress of the underworld. The reason? To build a new boat for Charon. Huff! It's such an honor to work alongside the god Hephaestus. Daedalus, is it? I've heard your name quite often. I'm a sculptor. Are you planning to craft a figurehead? Pygmalion is right. Since the ferry was destroyed, we're going to build Charon a proper new boat. Of course, there should be a figurehead of Charon at the prow. Uncle Hades, what do you think about making the boat out of metal? Metal? Is that possible? Yes, since the movement can be powered by divine abilities, ensuring its durability. And the internal design, in my past life, where humans had ventured into the sky and the space, I might have known better. But even for a god of blacksmiths, there are limits to technology, and I doubt a metal boat would move well. However, since this is the age of myth, we can compensate for any shortcomings with supernatural powers. And in the underworld, while trees don't grow, there is an abundance of metal, so it might actually work. Let's give it a try. I'll supply all the materials you need. Then, Uncle, leave it to the world's greatest blacksmith, Hephaestus. The god of blacksmiths let out a hearty laugh, thumping his muscular chest. Next to him, Daedalus was deep in thought, seemingly contemplating something with an expression that suggested he was up for the challenge. Thus began an unexpected shipbuilding project in the underworld. Clang! Clang! Is this the metal that's said to come only from deep underground? So, this will be sailing on the Charon River from now on? Move it a little more to the side over there. A boat made of metal. Who would have thought something like this would exist in the underworld? Countless technicians, blacksmiths, and laborers in the underworld were busy moving materials according to instructions. On one side, those serving their senses through labor were moving the heavy metal. Hephaestus and Daedalus were bustling about, giving orders. TSK. How should I magnificently express Charon's baldness? If I make it too full, Pygmalion, Greece's greatest sculptor, was busy creating the figurehead in Charon's likeness. Once Pygmalion sculpted Charon's likeness, we planned to imbue it with divine power and place it at the prow of the boat. The work on Charon's new boat was completed swiftly. This was thanks to the leadership of the blacksmith god, Daedalus' design, and the tireless efforts of the laboring souls. I think Charon will be satisfied with this, don't you think? As you requested, we've installed several devices beneath the boat to help push through the currents. I gazed at the massive boat, which seemed sturdy enough to carry dozens of souls without a problem. It was crafted entirely from various metals, outfitted with devices to naturally repel water currents as per my request to Hephaestus, and included a figurehead of Charon imbued with divine power. Poseidon would be jealous of this. It was incomparable to Charon's old, shabby ferry. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. At the entrance to the underworld, near the Charon River, Charon, who had been hastily ferrying souls across, and Aphrodite, who had been controlling the unruly souls, greeted us. What? You want me to ferry souls with this thing from now on? Hades, how much longer do I have to keep doing this? I wasn't too concerned about Aphrodite. What really caught my eye was old man Charon, staring up at the magnificent boat. He climbed aboard and began to inspect various parts, marveling as he did. Oh, it even has powers to push through the currents. With this, I won't even need to row anymore. Well, because of the laws of the Acheron River, you'll still have to continue the act of rowing, even if it's unnecessary. Charon's face, which had momentarily brightened, immediately darkened again. Old man Charon, at least now you'll have to row less than before. Ugh, what would you know? I barely had to row before, since I could move with my powers. The real issue is that I still have to keep ferrying these mortal scum across the Acheron. Even though the boat can move on its own, why do I still have to keep rowing? I guess the task of ferrying souls has always been tough for him. That's the nature of all work here in the Underworld, though. Well, at least it's better than being Thanatos, right? Cheer up. That's not comforting at all. The ferryman, or now, the captain, of the Acheron, Charon, began rowing on his newly crafted boat. Fitting its massive size, his oar had also become much longer. I'll increase the influence on the living world, so they'll place more coins in the mouths of the dead. Forget the money. Just let me rest. I'll still send word through the priests of my temple. Even if a family is poor, if the funeral guests chip in just a little, Charon's purse should fill up nicely. In the future, this might even be known as a kind of condolence money, funeral offerings. Get on, you lot. I'll take you across the Acheron. The boat, filled with souls, moved away as Charon rowed once again. Even though we installed an automatic motor under the boat, due to the laws of the Underworld, Charon is still fated to keep rowing. Hades, can't you hear me? I'm ready for some passionate time together. Aphrodite, who had been controlling the souls on the side, approached and placed her hand on my chest. The goddess of love smiled gently, seducing me. Step back. Actually, there's a soul who came to the Underworld to see you. What? A soul that wants to meet me? Aphrodite looked puzzled. But soon a man stepped off Charon's boat after it returned from dropping off souls on the opposite shore of the Acheron. As soon as he saw Aphrodite, he hurried over and prostrated himself. Ah, I remember you, a mortal from long ago. Goddess Aphrodite, I, Pygmalion, who received your grace, your blessings, and your mercy, humbly offer my gratitude. This man's name was Pygmalion. He was the greatest sculptor in the world. Allowed to marry the statue, he created thanks to Aphrodite's favor. With a face more serious than when he was sculpting, Pygmalion paid his respects to the goddess of love and beauty. The mortal sincerity moved even the goddess of love, and she straightened her posture. Aphrodite gently placed her hand on the devotee's shoulder. Pygmalion, overwhelmed with emotion, bowed even lower. You're the sculptor from the island of Cyprus, the one who prayed to me while making that statue. Yes, thanks to your blessing, I was able to live a life without regrets with my beloved wife. I saw that pure and unwavering love you had for the woman, whom I breathed life into. The sculptor trembled at the way she referred to the figure not as a mere statue, but as a woman. All of this was because of your grace. I wanted to personally thank you for helping me realize my love. Think of it as a reward for your desperate longing for love. I stayed quiet, not wanting to interrupt their conversation. For at this moment, Aphrodite was no longer just the goddess of beauty, but a compassionate goddess of love, smiling warmly. Asterisk. Pygmalion, who had even shed tears as he expressed his gratitude, eventually departed. That reminds me, there's something I've been curious to ask her. At the time, what made you decide to breathe life into the statue? Oh, back then? Aphrodite paused, thinking for a moment. Her thoughtful expression reflected on the Acheron's waters, a beautiful sight in itself. Soon, she broke into a playful smile and spoke. Isn't it the role of the gods to make impossible wishes come true and answer the desperate prayers of mortals? Impossible wishes and desperate prayers, huh? Even though we gods live eternally, our emotions don't dull, and we don't become mechanical, endlessly repeating our tasks. It's more accurate to say that we retain our personalities, or perhaps that we are personified deities with human-like traits. That's why things like Zeus' many acts of violence, the tragedy of Phaethon and Helios, the rebellion of the gods or Thanatos strike occur. Well, to be honest, it was just a whim. Who knew a mortal would move my heart? And sometimes these kinds of heartwarming tales come about, I suppose. As I silently nodded in understanding, Aphrodite shot me a sharp look. That's all fine and good, but I've been asking you for a while now. How about we finally... Oh, if you like the heat, I can assign you to work at the Phaethon River. What? Why should I have to work in the underworld? Didn't you want to come to the underworld? The goddess of beauty's face twisted in frustration as she began to raise her voice. That's not what I meant. I meant spending some fun time with you. You've already met Pygmalion, and working here has been somewhat enjoyable. Fine, I'll just go back. No way you're going back. I've already received Zeus' permission to bring whichever god I want. You'll have to work a bit more here. By the way, Zeus himself approved of bringing you. What? I lodged a complaint about the Thanatos incident, so I've arranged for a few gods from Olympus to be sent here. Aphrodite's expression went blank when she heard the news that Zeus had essentially sold her off. She was in denial, unable to accept the reality of what had happened to her. So it's settled. I'll leave the souls at the Acheron to you. Hades, Aphrodite, now hard at work on the Acheron River. Thanks to her, the underworld has undergone noticeable changes that even I can feel. As Charon quickly handed over the souls, Thanatos' work efficiency improved. More souls swiftly arrived at the river Cocytus, and as a result, all the gods of the underworld had a bit more breathing room. Even the number of souls who caused trouble, unable to accept their death, had decreased. Hades, this isn't what I signed up for. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After encouraging Aphrodite for her hard work at the Acheron River, I returned to the fortress of the underworld, leaned back on my throne, and tilted my head. So many things have happened recently. Still, with Aphrodite's help, I should have some time to... A soft embrace. I felt a presence behind my throne, slowly creeping up and wrapping around me. Soft silver hair, delicate hands. Lady Lethe, how are the souls at the Lethe River being managed? I left it to my attendants, and the selection of the newly hired attendants. Don't worry about that. As the small goddess hands gently cover my eyes, I close them without resistance. The sensation of something soft touching the back of my head. I tried to get up from the embrace of Lethe, the goddess behind me, but failed. It seems like you're gripping tighter. Neither Zeus nor Poseidon seems to have as much work as you do. It can't be helped due to the nature of the underworld. Zeus, who governs the sky and the entire world, might be the busiest of us all, but because of that, he's delegated much of his work to countless gods. The sun and the wind, nature and the earth, art and madness. Except for major incidents like the threat of the Gigantes or wars, most things are handled by the other Olympian gods. Poseidon, who rules the vast seas and waters, has also entrusted much of his work to the many sea nymphs, the Nereids, and divine beasts. Honestly, unless it's something that affects the entire marine ecosystem, there's no need to worry about it. Whether an earthquake happens under the sea, or a shark eats a fish in the depths of the ocean, all of these are part of natural death, the cycle of life. But the underworld is a bit different. I'm in a position to ensure that cycle happens smoothly. If there's a problem with the souls coming to the underworld, it becomes difficult to assign souls to new lives being born. If the space in the underworld runs out or reaches capacity, we'll struggle to accommodate the deceased. If the judgments on the soul's sins aren't carried out properly, the laws of the world will become unstable. And the most critical issue is, all the gods are incredibly busy. Just look at Charon or Thanatos. Well, that's true. Unlike Olympus, the division of labor here isn't very effective. There are hardly any idle gods, so how can I delegate work? It's not like I can ask the furies for help since everyone avoids them. Shall I use my power to clear your mind? I'd appreciate that. Lethe whispered in a concerned voice. With her power of forgetfulness, she could help me temporarily forget my fatigue. It's like she would lift away unnecessary memories from my mind. A kiss. The soft touch on my forehead lasted only a moment. From that spot, my mind cleared, and the mental exhaustion began to melt away. Wait, did she just kiss my forehead? Don't say anything. Just rest. When I opened my eyes, I saw Lethe's face, contrasting her silver hair, flushed bright red. I stared at her face, which looked like it would explode if touched, for a moment before closing my eyes again. All right. I had a feeling my face wasn't much different from hers. The afterlife was as turbulent as ever today. Aphrodite, who had agreed to help out in the underworld for a while, was having another exhausting day. Before reaching the river Lethe, where souls drink and forget their memories of the mortal world, they still retained all their earthly memories. Because of this, some of them couldn't accept the fact that they had died and began causing trouble. Art, I'm not dead yet. Please, just let me see my mother once more. I'll walk in on my own after that. Damn it, let me out of here. There were those who denied reality, those who still clung to regrets from the living world, and those who vented their rage at the enemies who had killed them, and even those who wandered the Charon River because they didn't have a single coin to pay the ferryman. Exhausted from dealing with all of this, Aphrodite found herself too tired to maintain her divine dignity, so she resorted to mesmerizing the souls with just a glance. But just as she sent the souls across the river, Charon returned with a message from Hades. Hades says he's going to host a banquet in the underworld that will last an entire day. A whole day? I was surprised too. I guess he's still worried about that incident with Thanatos last time. Though it was the same news, their reactions were different. While Charon, the ferryman of the Charon River, was delighted at the prospect of having a full day off, the goddess of beauty and love was shocked that it was only one day. It made sense. After all, what work did the goddess of love and beauty have to do on Olympus? Love was an emotion that naturally arose, and beauty was something she didn't need to interfere with. And Olympus was full of other carefree gods like her. Banquets were frequent, and life was leisurely. Come to think of it, you must not be used to work, having lived comfortably on Olympus. Now I understand why Athena avoids any talk of the underworld since the Great Flood. It was only natural for her to react this way, given that this delicate flower had suddenly found herself trapped in a workaholic's nightmare. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I am innocent. Lord Zeus forced himself on me. Sob. Why is Lady Hera only punishing me? All right, take a moment to rest, and we'll talk again. A human soul who had been raped by Zeus, punished by Hera, and sent to the underworld. As she wept bitterly, the goddess of forgetfulness, Lethe, quietly approached from behind and made her forget her memories of the living world. Sometimes, when delivering judgment in the underworld, souls would arrive still clinging to their memories of life. When one dies with deep resentment, it's only natural that the waters of the river Lethe have no effect. Why are there so many rape victims from the mortal world? The gods are reckless. Not just Zeus, who thinks with his lower half. Most of them are like that. The higher the gods rank, the more inclined they are to behave this way. But even the lesser gods are guilty of raping mortals. Just today alone, 3 rape victims arrived in the underworld. All of them begged me, still holding on to their memories of life. As I held my head in my hands, the goddess Lethe, who had just erased a soul's memories, quietly approached. Still, Hades isn't like that, right? Even though he's quite popular. Well, of course not. After all, I am one of the 3 great gods. Anyone who marries me would become the queen of the underworld, gaining immense power and authority. Honestly, I might look a bit gloomy, but I still think I'm quite handsome. Even if I'm not as bad as Poseidon, whose frequent affairs make his wife Amphitrite furious every day, or Zeus, who sleeps with almost every woman he lays eyes on, there are still a fair number of goddesses who subtly express interest in me. However, sigh, it's because I keep seeing souls like that. The underworld is filled with victims of rape, infidelity, and crimes of passion. After seeing so many souls who died because of goddesses' curses or jealousy, my desire for marriage often vanishes. And I must choose the queen of the underworld carefully. A wife like Hera, who kills rape victims, or Amphitrite, who overturns the sea in anger. That's not for me. Just then, one of my attendants approached and informed me that the banquet preparations were complete. It seems the preparations for the banquet are about finished. Shall we head to the hall? Sigh. Fine. It's been a while since we've had a day off, so I'm sure everyone will be pleased. I left my office and headed to the banquet hall with the goddess Lethe quietly following behind me. I instructed them to distribute Dionysus wine to the souls of the underworld as part of the celebration. Even though the souls no longer needed to eat or drink, at least they could still enjoy the festive atmosphere. Have the muses arrived? Yes. The goddesses have already arrived and are in the banquet hall. The 9 muses who preside over the arts are the daughters of Mnemosyne and Zeus. When Mnemosyne heard I was holding a banquet, she contacted Olympus and called for her daughters. A melodious tune filled the air as I entered the banquet hall. Euterpe played the flute, while Terpsichore danced to the music. The other muses were also livening up the banquet atmosphere in their respective fields. As I sat down for a moment and looked around the banquet hall, I noticed that everyone seemed to be enjoying this rare moment of rest. But something felt off. Oh my! How exhausted must he have been? The gods were whispering about something in a corner at the back of the banquet hall. When I sneaked closer, I saw an old god lying down, trying to sleep. Zizi, why is Hypnos sleeping on the banquet floor? He must be that tired. Still, the banquet was meant for rest, so I shouldn't disturb him. I instructed a servant to move the sleeping Hypnos to a quiet room and then return to the hall. Another death by disease? Those fragile mortals. Tiske. In another corner, Thanatos was sipping nectar, surrounded by the energy of death. Even during the banquet, he had to control his avatars to harvest souls, so he couldn't rest. Hades! Someone called out to me. Where have I heard that voice before? Ah! Oh my! Lord Hades! It's been so long. Erato! It's been a while. A goddess with long cyan hair, who looked stunning in a tunic, approached me with a charming smile. It was Erato, one of the 9 muses, the goddess of love poetry and lyric poetry. You're always working so hard in the underworld, but I've been so busy that I haven't had a chance to visit. Erato came closer and linked her arm with mine. Don't get too close, niece. Though her playful behavior was cute, wasn't she standing a little too close? Lord Hades, seeing you after so long is sparking my inspiration. I had a feeling people were watching us, so it was about time to end this. Contrary to my thoughts, Erato cleared her throat and began to recite a poem. The sweet voice of the goddess of love poetry and lyric poetry echoed through the banquet hall. Asterisk. Human say, there's Phoebus with a smile as bright as the sun, and Poseidon with a chest as vast as the sea. The alluring figure of Dionysus and the witty tongue of Hermes. Pausing for a moment to take a sip of nectar, Erato placed her hand on my chest and continued. But we know that Pluto of the underworld, whom everyone fears, is... Gasp! Forgive me, I will take my leave. Huh? Erato abruptly stopped her words, staring behind me, and then, looking very flustered, she bowed her head and stepped backward. When I turned around, there stood Goddess Styx, smiling at me. However, she didn't seem to be in a particularly good mood. Hades, again with some strange goddess. Huh. Ugh. Never mind. So why did you host this banquet? Do you realize how much damage could be caused by skipping work for just one day? Yes. I'm well aware. I just thought everyone could use a break. But what if the work piles up like last time? You don't need to worry about that. Look over there. We turned our heads to see Thanatos, controlling his avatars with a sinister gaze, still muttering something under his breath. The busiest god in the underworld was clearly too preoccupied with harvesting souls to rest. The next one's over here. Oh dear, an entire family starved to death. Never mind the black wings brushing against the nectar cup. His fearsome figure, harvesting souls in real time, left no other gods daring to approach him. Thanatos is still working diligently, and the 3 judges are taking turns resting. So, does that mean I can go now? Hades? The goddess Aphrodite interrupted our conversation with a very irritated expression. Compared to before, the goddess of beauty had an even more decadent appearance. I had worked her hard enough by now. The reduction in the underworld's workload had been noticeable for a while. You've done well. But if you ever feel like returning to the underworld, you really? Can I really go? The moment I agreed, Aphrodite quickly left the room. Goddess Styx, watching her go, shook her head in disbelief. Honestly, complaining just because she did a little work by the Acheron River. Perhaps because she usually lived such a leisurely life on Olympus, she was quick to escape from the underworld. Someone is praying to me. A believer from Thebes? No, a priest? But this desperate plea, filled with fear and anxiety. Lord Hades, please save us. A monster with the body of a snake and a human. Lord Hades, please help us. A creature with a body of a snake and a human. This is a prayer from one of my followers. A desperate prayer from someone who is a proper priest. Following the plea, I focus on the follower's vision, and something comes into view. A creature with the lower body of a snake and the upper body of a human. A giganes. Have I finally caught their trail? Lady Styx, it seems a giganes has appeared in the mortal world. I need to descend into a human body for a moment. I'll inform Olympus right away. Goddess Styx sets down her nectar and swiftly moves into action. I, too, quickly exit the banquet hall. A giganes? A giganes, you say? Running from the underworld to Thebes is too far a distance. Since my follower has enough faith to accept me, possessing the human's body is the quickest way to grasp the situation. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. No one will notice if we eat a few humans. Hold back. We need them as sacrifices for the descent. On a mountainside near Thebes, in a dark cave, creatures with snake-like lower bodies and human upper bodies stared hungrily at the humans they had dragged into the cave. 10 or so muscular monsters, each with the body size of several adult men combined. As Hades suspected, they were the enemies of the gods, the Gigantes. Mom, the god Apollo from the sky will help us. Lady Artemis, please respond to us. Dozens of people cowered in fear in a corner of the cave. They had been kidnapped from near Thebes by the Gigantes, ordinary civilians. Among them was Pentheia, a priestess from Hades' temple. She had left the safety of Thebes, thinking that no one would dare touch a priestess of the underworld. So, this is why people have been going missing near Thebes. She never imagined that monsters far beyond human understanding would capture her. Do you think the gods of Olympus can see inside this cave? If you wait quietly, I'll grant you a painless death. The Gigantes laughed at the tearful and despairing humans. Despite their desperate prayers, the gods did not respond. That's because not every plea reaches the gods. Prayers not offered at the proper temple, or those not accompanied by enough offerings, and those not from nymphs, demigods, or ordained priests, rarely reach the gods' ears. They kidnapped us for that ritual over there, didn't they? All the other monsters had male faces, but the one in the center of the cave was different. A beautiful female-bodied monster was chanting incantations while standing on a magic circle made of blood. This many sacrifices should be enough to summon him. Lord Enceladus, the preparations are complete. Is that so? Then throw the humans in. One of the half-human, half-snake creatures called out to another monster holding a giant club. That one seemed to be the leader of the monsters. You come here? Kya. A rough hand grabbed a woman's hair and threw her forward. The female monster reached out, grabbed her heart, and ripped it out, scattering blood onto the floor. No, I don't want to do. Thud. Stop screaming. There was no use in trying to escape. There was no use in resisting. All the humans captured in this place would be sacrificed in that grotesque ritual. The next victim, a man, shouted, "Do you think the gods will stay silent? I will watch your downfall from the underworld." Oh, that's terrifying. I would love it if the goddess Athena came to stop us. The leader, holding a club, mocked him, and the cave echoed with laughter. The inhuman beings, who even the gods feared, laughed maniacally, deepening the humans' terror. Once we've defeated all the gods of Olympus, Athena will be my wife. Of course, Lord Enceladus. But first, we must summon him. Silence. Do you dare give me orders, trusting in your defeated husband? The female-bodied monster urged the continuation of the ritual, but the leader dismissed her. Hades' priestess, Pentheia, closed her eyes, and prayed more fervently than ever. Lord Hades, please help us. These monstrous snake-human creatures. Hey, bring that woman in black over here. Yes. It was her turn next. A giganes, following orders, violently grabbed the priestess by her long hair, biting her lips until they bled. Panidia clasped her hands together and murmured a prayer. Please, I beg of you, these terrifying monsters. As her hopeless prayer continued, in that moment that felt like an eternity. Fear no more. I am here now. Salvation had arrived for the mortal. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The woman, who had been praying with her hair roughly seized, suddenly lifted her head and faced the giganes in front of her. Instead of the human eyes she should have had, deep darkness swirled in her pupils. Huh? Your eyes are... Cook! A black shadow surged from beneath her feet, piercing through the giganes' wrist and neck in quick succession. A death far too futile for a creature said to rival even the gods. A divine power? Even if you're an Olympian god, possessing a human body alone, to come here without any divine weapon or relic. How bold of you! With a slight wave of her hand. No, his hand. A black line connected, severing the giganes who had been charging at him. The pitch-black divine power tore through the space and sliced apart the bodies of these monsters, which were harder than steel. Crash! Boom! Now, only two remained. Encircling the female creature, the giant creature holding a massive club blocked the attack, and behind him, the female creature frowned. What are you? Are you one of the 12 Olympians? The god of the underworld, Pluto? No, Hades. You've heard my name, haven't you? One of the big three. The bident responds only to the true form of Hades, not to his possessed form. The stick's blade remains at the waist of his body in the underworld, and Kine, the divine artifact made by the Cyclopes, lies in the treasure vault of the underworld. The body currently possessed by the god is not that of a hero or demigod, but of an ordinary female priestess. Yet the one who has descended into this body is none other than Hades, the lord of the underworld. You filthy vermin! The giganes had no chance against him. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I managed to descend just in time. Any later, and my priestess's head would have been crushed by the hands of the giganes. Lord Pluto, Hades, the lord of the underworld, the richest of all, the ruler of souls, has descended to save us. The surrounding humans murmured. Despite the fear my name might inspire, their expressions showed relief instead of terror. After all, they had been on the verge of becoming sacrificial offerings in a gruesome ritual. I glanced at the humans kneeling, clasping their hands together, and weeping in relief, then shifted my gaze back to the giganes holding the club. When our eyes met, he flinched slightly before commanding the female creature behind him. Oof, you are no threat. Once he arrives, you'll be nothing. But by the time I had descended here, I had already grasped the entire situation, including what this ritual was about. The strange circle on the ground resembles the trap you set on Naxos Island. A strong divine power of the earth, a summoning of sorts. This sorcery is similar to the magic shown by Hecate, the goddess of magic, during the Titanomachy. With a gesture, I sent the humans out of the cave. From now on, this cave and the entire mountain might collapse. Hurry up and complete the ritual. I have no intention of stopping you, so take your time. I need to confirm with my own eyes who is backing you. The two monsters remained highly wary of me, but I had no intention of stopping their ritual. The strange magic circle on the ground, created by sacrificing many humans and pouring in divine power from the earth, was designed for the descent of a god. I needed to confirm who was supporting the giganes here. When the ritual succeeds, the divine energy that surges forth will alert the other gods. It won't be long before their attacks overwhelm this mountain. There's no way Gaia doesn't know about this. Yet, even so, the reason she's trying to summon someone here is, this is Gaia's declaration of war. A provocation and warning after her trap on Naxos Island failed. You're spouting nonsense, you wretch. By the way, who are you? The one hiding behind them? Giganes are all male, You're no giganes. The female creature trembled as I hit the mark. Although she had the lower body of a snake and a similar appearance to the giganes, she lacked the aura of one. She was likely a different kind of monster that only resembled them. I am Echidna, wife of Typhon. I will kill all of you, detestable gods. Typhon's wife, so that's it. Her motivation becomes clear. Gaia must have revealed the ritual to her. Come forth, you, who exist everywhere and never fade away. Great Titan. Shwick. Echidna raised a dagger high and stabbed herself in the chest. She collapsed, but immense divine power surged from the wound, shaking the cave. Quo. The body stiffened. Time began to slow down. Soon, Echidna, who had collapsed after stabbing herself in the chest, rose again and looked at me. This is a dangerous method even for Gaia, a poison-countering poison approach. It seems the Earth Mother Goddess truly wants to drive us out. It's been a while, my eldest son, Hades. Did you miss your father? To think she would draw the consciousness of Kronos, who was imprisoned in Tartarus, into this world,